If the audio is bad in any way, you have to let me know. Let me get the panel prepped. Let me join the YouTube stream as well. Hey, Crabman is here. Let's get Crabman up. We got a full panel today. So anyone requesting to speak, not sure if you haven't already spoken to the team, we may not be able to bring you up. Just a heads up. But let me get everyone up. Let's see where Obvam is there. Crabman, you there?
Yeah, how's it going, boys?
How are you, man?
All good, bro.
Oh, I see that's Obvam, no?
Yeah.
Ah, cool. I was Crabman, are you there as well?
Yeah,
No,
he's over here.
not there yet. Crabman, can you hear me? Okay, Suleiman up. Let's get Partisan Girl up. Romy, if you can message Crabman, because I'm not sure if he's on stage, but I can't hear him. Also, Partisan Girl. I can't invite Partisan Girl, so if you can invite her as well, be great. I see he's got requests from Faddy's here. Now let me co-host you guys. Nick and Sam, I'm going to co-host you now. We need Crabman. Crabman, it's playing up Crab Crawler. So I'm going to DM you an invoice. I'm going to DM you a speaker invite. Oh, you're up, I think? No, not yet. Let me DM you.
Does this work?
Crab. Who's there? Who's speaking? Because I can't look at the screen yet. Let me have a look.
I think it's only over the phone.
Hey, Crabman, what's up, man? Yeah, you can't join from the laptop. I think we should tell speakers moving forward. So Romy, who's listening in the background, we have to tell speakers that they can't join from a laptop. It's a common issue.
Oh, shit. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
This is fine.
How are you, man? It's your first major space, man. I appreciate you joining.
Oh, my God. I'm hyperventilating, but no, I'm good. I'm confident about this topic enough, and I have everything written down that I want to say ever on this topic.
Cool, and Mizo as well. I think it's your first major space, so appreciate you coming on. Leia, you're a beast. Like this is your home. You dominate.
Let's see how it goes. Good to be here.
Pleasure to have you. So just for all the speakers, you should be getting a DM of the StreamYard link. If you want to join as well, we do have this streaming on YouTube where people could see us speaking. And anyone that has glitches or issues with Twitter Spaces, I can see it on YouTube. So make sure you join from there as well, if you like. That goes to all speakers. And just DM Romy from the team if you don't have the link, and she can send it through to you. But when you join StreamYard, just make sure your mic is muted and the volume on the laptop is muted. I've sent an invite to a few panelists. They'll be joining in a bit. Let me invite Steph, who's part of the key team, who was there since the early days. Got Steph an invite. Cool. I think everyone's invited. So Romy, just DM me if there's any issues. Otherwise, Sam, Nick, going to be a sick panel today.
Looking forward to it.
A very, very, very polarizing topic. So before we kick it off, I do want to give a shout out to Nick out of everyone. Nick, we found out you're clinically insane. Just to be clear, you slept 2 hours in like 2 days because you went and covered the story of what was the gentleman's name?
Damar Hamlin up there in Cincinnati.
Damar's collapse, and you went to the hospital, covered the story live, and we ended up doing an epic space on the matter and discussing potential causes of what happened. So massive respect to you. And appreciate you for staying alive till this space and helping us.
So I do have to mention for everybody here, there was some news that we were able to give here that other news outlets they didn't have and they didn't report on. So and that was later confirmed. So Twitter is a great space for independent journalists and being able to get words out quickly. So thank you to Mario for having these.
Yeah, man, you broke the news on a few matters regarding the fact that he had 2 cardiac arrests. Before we kick off the Tate debate, I just want to say, you were the one that broke that story, and the people were in the space, and I retweeted one of them. I usually don't retweet a lot of things, but retweeted one of them where people in the space are like, hey, shit, you guys were right. And the media covered it a bit later. So massive respect.
What do you mean 2? Like, how does that work? Like, was it like consecutively or whatever, or like one after the other?
So he had actually, DeMar had actually coded, or well, he coded in the hospital, right? That was right before, which means he went into cardiac arrest, right before they were supposed to have a press conference at the medical center. That's why they canceled the press conference itself. Now, he also went into cardiac arrest on the field, obviously, but nobody had known at the time why the press conference was actually canceled. We were actually able to track down the aunt of DeMar Hamlin, who happened to be at the hospital, and had a short conversation with her. She was not willing to come on the space for obvious reasons. I wasn't surprised with that, nor did I try to pressure her to do so. But she was able to give us valuable information like that so that we could relay it to you guys.
Wow. That is really cool how you were just able to cut through what was like an avalanche of noise that night.
All right, guys. So I'm gonna kick it off. You ready, Sam and Nick?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, so the way we're going to kick this off, we do have a debate in a bit. Syrian Girl, I'm just going to bring you up, where this space is not a breaking news space. So we had time to prepare for it. And as you know, the goal is to keep it as balanced as possible. So we've got people on both sides of the argument with different perspectives. We have Crabman, who did a great thread. It was very critical of Andrew and Tristan, a very detailed thread. So we'll break this thread down together on the space. We do have Slayman, who I'm trying to bring up. Let me see. He's up now. Slayman did a great thread who actually criticized me, which I respect criticism, and criticized Syrian Girl with breaking down a lot of the things that we mentioned in the space. So I'd love you to go through your thread as well, Slayman, and have a good discussion here. But to kick it off, I would have Sam and Nick, if you don't mind, guys, give us a general overview. Sam, you can kick it off. Starting with the allegations, the police report, or the press release by the police, and then the response by the official response by Cobra, whatever the company's called, Andrew Tate's company. And then just the latest developments. Nick, you can add to it as well. And then we'll go to Steph to give us more updates and break down the allegations, especially the Loverboy allegation, because I just did a tweet on this point.
Okay, cool. So I'll give a summary of events, really. So this dates back to April 2022. I almost said this year. Early year problems. So 11th of April 2022, the Romanian Directorate for Investigating Organised Crime and Terrorism, which we're going to call DICOT from now on, so I don't have to say that again, put out a press release relating to an incident the day before, so on April the 11th. Sorry, I should have said the press release was April the 12th. They ordered an extension of a criminal investigation for the crimes of human trafficking and rape. So this dates back to April. That night, the Romanian authorities conducted searches of 2 buildings. They took evidence and they interviewed multiple witnesses. The statement confirmed that the investigations were being continued. So that case was never closed. Then there was nothing for a very long time. The next official update from DICOT was on the 29th of December, and that was obviously the night of the raid. So that's when this all went very high profile. It confirmed that search warrants have been executed on 5 properties in reference to that April 12th, April 11th case, following a long investigation. We have since learned, and I think it's been confirmed, that there was satellite surveillance and phone tapping involved within that investigation. So that night, December 29th, 4 suspects were arrested, 2 British males, who we now know are the Tate brothers, and 2 Romanian women, who we do know now were a former Romanian policewoman who was working for the Tates, and Tristan Tate's personal assistant, Georgine, I believe is her name. So the official statement from DICOT claimed that they constituted a criminal organization suspected of human trafficking and rape in Romania, the US, and the UK. There was implications that this was not, the limit of the list, but these were among the countries where the claims were being made. So I will say that this is a statement about suspected crimes. This is not charges at this point. So the victims are recruited. This is what the statement says. I'm summarizing it. The victims are recruited by the British citizens, misrepresent their intention to enter into a marriage or cohabitation relationship through the existence of genuine feelings of love, which is this human trafficking law or anti-human trafficking law known as the Loverboy method, which we're going to cover a bit later. It goes on to say that the victims were transported and housed in buildings in Ilfov, I believe is the pronunciation, subjected to acts of physical violence, mental coercion, which included intimidation, constant surveillance, control, and invoking alleged debts. They were sexually exploited by group members, forced to perform pornography for the purpose of producing and disseminating it through social media platforms. So far, 6 victims have been identified. So that summarizes the 2 police statements briefly. The alleged crimes have been countered by this statement from Tate's official website, which is cobratate.com. This is /war-room. So statement on Tate's detention. The War Room is a community of men striving for excellence in all areas of life. We believe and in fact know that Andrew Tate is the target of an unfounded, politically driven attack. We are apolitical and we are not affiliated with any religion. We continue to focus on our mission of supporting men in becoming the best versions of themselves. The War Room believes men should be strong, positive influences on society who can be counted on by their family and friends. We have and will continue to make men better physically, financially, and mentally. So after the arrest of the Tate brothers and the 2 women, they appeared in front of a judge the following day, I believe. So during this short hearing, the judge deemed there was enough evidence to justify detaining the 2 Tate brothers and the policewoman, but Tristan's PA was released. So Tate's lawyers then appealed this decision. The appeal was heard a few days later, and that appeal was lost. So just finally to summarize, Romanian law does not offer bail. It's a different system to, say, the UK or the US. So the prosecutor must request this 30 days, and then he can keep requesting it every 30 days, up to a maximum of 180 days. But the judge has to deem that there is sufficient cause for keeping them detained during the investigation. For example,
which we do want to point out that Andrew has spoken about having, I think it was like 7 passports, which is, even for billionaires, that's a lot of passports. And he's spoken openly about his ability to never be caught and be able to travel anytime, anywhere he likes using any passport. So it just makes it very difficult. And that kind of goes into a bigger discussion that we're going to have a bit later. It just makes it very difficult for, makes Andrew's case very difficult. I've spoken to a few lawyers, and I think Steph will agree on this in a bit. And Patrick Bet-David, who's been on the show a few times, he talked about it in his show, where he said that being loud is not always a good idea for people that are achieving power or wealth quickly for various reasons, including potentially making them a target. And then he used the Rothschilds as an example, that they've, one of their rules is to never be loud or something along those lines. So Andrew talking about, and I just did a tweet earlier, we're going to talk about it in a bit. Andrew on his website talking about his strategy of how they get girls to join their agency, which I've pinned the thread above. It's the latest. If you go scroll down to the end of the thread, that's where I talk about it, the last 2 tweets in that thread. No, actually, it's one of my latest tweets. I'll pin it above. And it talks about how it's an archived section of their website, which explains their strategy. And I'm actually going to quickly read it out for the audience. Let me pin it above, and I'll read it out, because that's crazy. It just makes this case very difficult. So it's the lover boy strategy, and Steph will explain it in a bit, but it's essentially making a girl fall in love with you with the purpose of exploiting her, a girl, guy, and generally for sexual purposes. That's a very simple way of explaining it. Steph will explain it further in a bit. But one of the allegations against the Tate brothers is that they tried to make girls fall in love with them to then have them join their adult webcam business. And then we got this section on their website, and the link is there. They used to, I'm going to read out exactly what the website said. Andrew says the following: my job was to meet a girl, go on a few dates, sleep with her, test if she's quality, get her to fall in love with me to where she'd do anything I say, and then get her on webcam so we could become rich together. Now, I'm not saying this is a good or bad thing. Obviously, I'm not a fan of that strategy in no way. But what I mean is that this is illegal in Romania. Not in all countries, it is illegal in Romania. And he kind of admitted to it on the website, unless someone wants to kind of interpret it differently. But maybe, Steph, you can give us a bit of an overview before we kick off the discussion on maybe any updates that Sam missed. And then, Nick, I'll let you add on to it in a bit as well. Any updates that Sam missed, but also explain to us the Loverboy allegation, because this seems like it's not the most serious allegation, but it is one that seems to be more plausible than others based on the evidence we have so far. And I'm talking about the publicly available evidence, not things we've received and we haven't shared. Steph, I'll let you comment on that.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. First of all, I would say that Sam did a great job in terms of summarizing everything in regards to this case specifically. I would just add, I don't recall if he said anything about the appeal, which will be ruled on tomorrow, on 5th of January. So we're expecting a response on that from the judge. My prediction is that it's going to be rejected, but we'll discuss more on that later. Now, in terms of the lover boy method, I think most of the people are aware of the fact that this is not a crime in most of the countries in the world, right? Because it's just a simple manipulation method and it doesn't go a long way when it comes to being interpreted as a crime. Now, in Romania, especially, it is interpreted as a crime and it's strictly forbidden by law. And it's mainly because for the past 30 years in Romania, this method was mainly used by the mafia, like real mafia people, in terms of luring the young woman.
Now I could discuss more
sex
about
trafficking in this case, also for prostitution, right? And so, as you can imagine, the law system adapted given the conditions, right? And they introduced this as being considered like as a crime. Now, I could discuss more about.
I have a question, Steph. Before you discuss more, I have a question for you. And by the way, just for the panelists, anyone that's here for the first time, if you want to jump in, feel free to do so. Even before we kick off the debate and the threads that Crabman and Slayman wrote. But if you want to jump in, just either unmute and jump in, or just put your hand up. And also, anyone requesting to speak, make sure you DM me because we can't. I can't. It glitches a lot. DM me if you want to come up to speak and explain why, so the team can review it and potentially bring you up on stage. But Steph.
Thanks, Mary. I have a quick question for Steph. So what's the jury system in Romania like? Say this goes to trial. In the West, as you're in the US, we have a 12 jury system, sometimes a 6 jury system. I'd like to know about that if it goes to trial.
Yeah, so in Romania, there are 4 courts, but given the fact that this is like a crime, right, it started at the second in terms of hierarchy, right, the second court. So they still have 2 courts more to go. Now, I won't go into the specifics because there's a lot of discuss about this, but that's what you need to understand. There are 4 levels, and it's already started at the second level in a sense.
But like, how does the verdict reach? Is there a jury that get to deliberate and hear if it goes to trial?
I guess now I understand the question. No, there's no jury. There's the judge that takes the decision. And again, depending on which level of the court you are facing, then there will be more judges, right? 1 judge, 2 judges, 3 judges, and ultimately the highest rank is like 5 judges. But there's no jury. There's no jury involved. The judge takes the decision.
I have another question, if you don't mind, and Raphael, if you got more questions, jump in as well. But question, sure. Steph, that one surprised me. Loverboy is not illegal everywhere, but it's illegal in Romania. Yet Tate, the Tate brothers decided to make Romania their headquarters. Is that just not knowing the Romanian legal system, or is it just that they're having these allegations are not true and they're not worried? What are your thoughts on this? Because you did talk about the lawyer that they currently have that's representing them, and that he doesn't really have the credentials for such a case. So I'd let you comment on why you think they were in Romania, considering they were potentially, based on the website, what I just read out, that they were conducting, they were using the Loverboy strategy, which is illegal in Romania specifically, and then your thoughts on the lawyer currently representing them.
Allegedly using the Loverboy strategy.
Allegedly, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just be clear there. And but this one's a bit tough, Raphael, to refute. Again, it's not proven. I want to be clear. Everything we say is speculation. Right. But while there's a lot of things that I just couldn't find evidence to prove them, and they're a lot less likely, in my opinion, a lot of these allegations just seem, unless there's evidence we haven't seen yet, this one just seems a lot more plausible based on the interviews where the Tate brothers have spoken about it. And the fact that they mentioned it on the website, which I just read out on their actual website, they just read through, and I've read it earlier. They've just explained that exact strategy, and yeah, it just makes it very hard.
I agree with you. I agree with you that on the surface it looks quite, bit of a predicament that they'd be in. However, I'd just like to add that on the website at the end, they do say we will get rich together. And as you mentioned, that there is speculation here. We don't really know anything what the prosecution has or what the defense has outside of what's available in the public sphere, which is lots of social media things that he's done on TikTok and other mediums. But how do we know that the Tates didn't make them sign a contract? So like the Loverboy, my understanding that method is when you actually hide your true motives and you say, oh, come here, we're going to fly on private jets and have a great time and live this luxury lifestyle, and then put them in a room, throw away the key, and now you're prostitutes. And I was another follow-up to that, which is, okay, is being in the cam business tantamount to prostitution? I would say no. Is that included within the parameters of what's the definition of lover boy? That I think is a decent question. Maybe Steph can answer that. So it's just not all that simple right on its surface. You know, there could be more to this case than what meets the eye.
You're right that, you know, if that was the case, it certainly wouldn't be illegal. It's not illegal to be in a partnership for a cam business. I mean, all we can say is that the specific press release stated that they were misrepresenting to these victims. So from the point of the charges that haven't been made yet, but from the allegations, they are stating specifically in the press release from DICOT that the victims were recruited by misrepresenting their intention to enter into a marriage or loving relationship, and were then later transported and effectively indoctrinated into the sex industry. These apparently, you know, according to the charges, these were not girls who were already in the sex industry.
I just want to quickly comment, Sam. Nick, I'll let you jump in, and Obvam, I saw you unmute as well. But I muted you twice, Obvam, because there's a bit of feedback on your end. So just unmute as soon as you speak, or put your hand up just because of the feedback. But Sam, I think Raphael was just correcting or commenting on me using the what they mentioned on the website as, like, you know, just makes it very probable that they did engage in Loverboy, the Loverboy strategy. But I think Raphael makes a good point that it doesn't state that the girl does not know from the beginning. And I also want to say something a bit controversial.
I just want to add. It says the opposite. He says that we will get rich together, as in we're going to get. So that's like implicitly, explicitly saying that, hey, we're going to engage in this activity. We're going to go both make money, which is not a clandestine kind of secret thing.
No, but we will get rich together. Who's that addressed to? Is that addressed to the guys signing up for his course, or is that addressed to the girls signing up to the webcam?
Can I just
the girl signing up to the webcam?
I just want to add something.
Okay. Can I jump in if that's okay? I just want to add, I think when he says we will get rich together, he's referring to the women who he's basically managing on the webcam business, not the guys selling courses. He's referring to the women who he's also taking care of. So, for example, he's going out there buying them nice things. He's talked about this very publicly on all the different podcasts. It's not anything new. And I think also this Loverboy technique, or whatever it's called, the tactic, it's extremely ambiguous, because at the end of the day, most guys, let's just be real, most men, when they meet women that they like, they always sell them a dream. That is literally what every man does. You know, and we can all pretend here.
Yeah, but we don't go out to exploit them financially. Like,
no. Listen, I want to state that you're using a word like exploit. The word exploit has a inbuilt definition that you're hiding something from that person. Now, if you're gonna go consensually and do a cam business with somebody, I think there's a word for that. It's called onlyfans.com. I mean, I don't see what the big deal is. Now,
that's right.
If they were misrepresenting, I just want to finish this point. If they were misrepresenting their intentions, then okay, then there's a case. We don't know. That's speculative. Do they have contracts that they drew up with these people? We don't know.
We know the revenue.
That's a very good point.
I just muted everyone. So Krabman, I'll let you respond, and then we'll go to Obvam and Gideon, and then Fadi. Fadi's been waiting patiently. Go ahead, Krabman. You wanted to object to what Raphael said?
Yes.
And just for the audience, we are talking about the one of the allegations, which is leveraging the Loverboy strategy. So yeah, Krabman, go ahead.
This pertains to we'll get rich together. That's a statement implying a 50-50 split, right?
No, it doesn't imply a 50-50
no, okay,
split
no,
at all. It means you're going to get into business together.
It means, like, we have an idea of the finances. Andrew Tate brought up, he says, my girl will generate over $200,000 a month. I will pay them a little, 10K, 15K, and keep the rest. But he's not consistent on these statements, because in another case, he says 8 girls generated $551,000. I'll give them a couple thousand each and keep the 500. So, like, these are actual things he said, and like he thinks that's fair.
What's wrong with a 70-30 split in a business? Like, that's Crabman. That's not up for you to decide how he runs.
That's amazing. That's an incredible take, by the way. Exactly. 70-30 split, Crabman. You would chop your left arm off wherever you work, wherever you're employed for that split.
Okay, 51 divided by 8 is what?
The point is,
and each girl gets a couple $1,000. That's not 70-30.
Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Crabman.
Yeah, sorry, Laia, go ahead.
Thank you. It doesn't matter whether it's 70-30, 80-10, 80-20, 90-10. It's really none of your business or anybody's business, to be honest, because it's his business. He's running the business. These women they have informed consent. They know what they're getting into, and he's managing the business. They're merely just employees. He is the CEO. Yeah, okay, it's their body, but it doesn't mean anything. He's the one.
It matters if they're being forced to do it.
They're not being
That's
forced
the only
to do it.
time it would matter.
Right,
It does
That's what
matter
I'm
even
saying, is that's the only time that it would
I just
matter.
got
Yeah,
something
but they're
to
not
say.
being
I just
forced
got
to do
something
it.
to say.
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
but
they're not
also,
being forced to do it because
some of
the
them
only woman.
Yeah, just says this panel is more energetic than usual. I'll go, Gideon, you've been waiting for a while, then we'll go to Fadi. And just put your hand up, guys, just to keep it organized. I think there's a lot of you getting a bit emotional. Go ahead, Gideon. Gideon.
Hi there, thank you so much. It's
Hey, man.
Gideon, but thank
Gideon,
you.
yeah, I realized afterwards. My bad, bro.
No problem. I was just going to say, I think it was Tara who mentioned that they were being forced to do this.
I didn't say that. I said the only way it would matter is if they were being forced to do it. So please don't confuse what I'm saying. That's not what I was saying.
No problem. So what I'm saying is, I think this all happened around 5, 4, maybe even 3 years ago. Why didn't any of these girls come forward back then? The thing was, there was one girl who came forward, which Andrew's publicly spoken about, that he had to kick out the house because she threw up all over his floors and wasn't doing what he wanted in terms of managing in terms of his business, whatever it was, webcam, I don't know. So that was the only issue he had with one girl. Everyone else was fine. But now he's blown up and seems to be flashing all this money around, and he's become himself a target, which is similar to what Patrick Bet-David was saying. Loads of people are coming forward saying he did this, he did that, whatever it might be. It's just very convenient, I think, that it's all coming forward now. Where was this many, many years ago when it was at the peak of it? There was just one girl who went to the authorities because Andrew kicked her out because he threw up in his house, and there was an issue, and she wasn't doing what he wanted her to do on webcam, and then he got rid of her. So that was the only girl that came forward.
Multiple people haven't come forward because they said to me directly that they feel too intimidated. That there are multiple sources across various aspects of this situation who I can't even talk about publicly because they are afraid what the Tate brothers will do to them.
Which I would say, I'm not saying we can't know if this is true or not, but it is a valid point, Gideon. I'd say that, we've seen this time and time again where people that were exploited or they've been assaulted, it takes them years sometimes to come out. And I'm not saying this was the case. I'm just saying something to keep in mind. Them taking years to come out does not mean the allegations are untrue. But also doesn't mean that they're true. Just kind of balancing it out. But I'll go to
go ahead. A great example of that, where many victims took many years, because it's a very intimidating, scary thing when a powerful figure. And again, this is all speculation at the moment, but we have to have some balance in this conversation.
Yeah, and I know, Crab. Sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say, Crabman, I know you have a thread where you go into detail about various, people you've spoken to, which we'll discuss in a bit.
I've got something to add
go ahead, bro.
to that thread, which Crabman posted a video of a girl that was on the webcam. Then she said she wasn't in a romantic relationship or didn't even want a romantic relationship with Andrew. So that means that it's purely business, and they know about it. And if the girl did it willingly for love, it was not forced. I didn't see how is that.
What about the video under that?
what
about the video under that, or the fact that that same girl has been trotted out nowadays to just say again, "Oh, Andrew Tate's innocent." You use the same girl twice for these sorts of things. What's that about?
I want to go to Steph briefly before going to Fadi. Steph, do you want to just explain to us what lover boy means? So make sure all the panelists understand what it means, because I feel like there's just different people interpreting it differently.
Yeah, so I could tell
muted,
you
bro.
how.
There they go.
Yeah, I could tell you how Loverboy method is interpreted in Romania and how it's been seen. Okay, so Loverboy method is a manipulation tactic, again used by the mafia usually for the last 30 years to lure young women, usually poor women that come from poor families, and then exploiting them physically and emotionally and make them to do prostitution. Okay, that's how it is. Now, how they do it it's usually something along those lines. They get those girls to fall in love with them, and as you can imagine, being that there is a big gap usually in terms of the age between the victim and the criminal, like 20 years, 15 years, they can easily make them fall in love with them. They buy them stuff, they show them the world, they go to nice restaurants, and then they pretend like there's a bad period in their lives, right, where they need money, and then they say, okay, you just show your boobs for a few seconds, or you just meet with this guy, we need money, you need to support me as well, because I've been supporting you so far, you know. And so then, of course, naturally, from a psychological point of view, the young woman will feel like she needs to do something for him, because, you know, he's been providing for her for so long, right? And that's where literally everything starts. Now there is levels to it. Like the entry level would be when you only have one girl, like only one girlfriend, and you only exploiting her. But to the highest level, it gets crazy. Like you get 10, 15, 20 women, and you frighten them so hard that they believe that you are going to kill their families, or you are going to kill them if they do something wrong, right? Plus, there's one more thing that I want to mention. Another tactic that they are using, they are filming them in just sexual scenes and things like that, and then they are manipulating them, and they are treating them that, okay, if you go forward with this, I will show this to your family, I will show this to the world, and you are going to get crushed. And so that's like a general overview. Now obviously we can go into more specific. I think you get a better understanding now about how this is seen in Romania.
Yeah, so Seth, I'd like to go to you on this one as well. There's been a lot of speculation about 3 potential additional charges that Andrew and Tristan could potentially face, which include abuse of trust, falsifying records, and deception, which all of which could be relevant to this conversation. Each of them carry up to about 3 years in prison. We actually have a clip that sort of goes along with this entire segment, but I'm going to let Mario decide when that's appropriate. But what is your take on that specifically?
I would also add to that list money laundering and the deprivation of liberty. There are 2 crimes that they can face charges for, and it goes hand in hand with everything. But I would say that's definitely possible. What we need to understand is that once the trial will start, right, because it's most likely going to start, then they can the new charges can come, right? So if they start with only 3, with human trafficking, with rape, and with the establishment of a criminal group, then by the time the trial ends, right, they can new charges can be made against them without any problem.
I want to go quickly to Fadi and then Syrian Girl before we kick it off with Crabman to go through his very, very detailed threads and allegations. And then we'll maybe Slayman will give you the mic before going to Crabman. Fadi, go ahead, man.
Mario, thank you for having me on, brother. You know, I'm listening to you all, and you know, not one of any of the, I think there's like 9,000 people in this space right now, or 8,800, have spent any time with Andrew. Okay, like I have. We've hung out dozens of times. I don't want to say that I'm a friend, but there's a mutual relationship there where we both know each other. We run in similar circles. I represent top tier athletes and musicians who love girls, yachts, private jets, parties, etc., etc. So we're always around the same people, essentially, whether it's in the States, in Europe, in Dubai or Qatar. You know, I was just at the World Cup in Qatar a few weeks ago, right? The same people that I would party with here in Los Angeles were the same people that I was partying with in Qatar, for example, right? So when you run in those circles, it's the same people over and over and over again. The only thing that interchanges is girls, get added more and more and more and more, right? I've seen him with hundreds of girls. And again, I'm not defending anything that, or going against any of the accusations or anything like that. But I've been a visual witness of this. Like in person, I call Andrew a tall square because he is completely different in person than what you see his bullshit, TV act and TikTok acts and all this other stuff. right? So
and we've had others echo this particular point, and I know that's not speaking to the allegations, but more speaking to his character. Patrick Bet-David as well spoke about this at length when he was in the space.
And I believe.
Yeah, I'll let you finish off, man, and I will go quickly to Syrian girl and Leia.
What I think transpired essentially is he pissed off the wrong people, so they threw a laundry list of shit at him. Again, I've been around enough uber wealthy people to know that when you're that rich, there's some shady shit going on financially. Whether it's you're cheating on your taxes, whether you're, washing money, whatever it may be, right? There's always some sort of, gray area to your financial operations. I think that he's going to ultimately fall to those financial charges that he's going to be facing. I don't think any of the rape or sex trafficking is going to stick. I don't believe that.
And Patrick Bet-David did make, I'm using him as a reference a lot because I was watching his interview his statement earlier after coming into our space on his YouTube channel, and he did say how rape is an allegation. That I'm just quoting what Patrick Bet-David said. It's an allegation that it's relatively common to bring down high-profile people. Now, I'm not implying it's not true. I have no idea. Just kind of supporting a point you've made, Fadi. But Crabman, I know you're not happy with that point, and I know exactly why, because I read through your thread, and we'll give you the mic to kind of go through your thread in a bit. Syrian Girl, I'd love your take on this before we go to Leia, Suleiman, and then we'll kick it off with Crabman.
Well, I have much more to say, but I'm going to keep it just to make a specific point this time. I'm sure we'll go back to me to discuss things with Suleiman. But Leia made a point that, these women knew what they were getting into financially with the 70-30 split, or the, getting $500,000 and then getting a couple of thousand. What Andrew Tate himself says, by his own admission.
That's not 70-30. Correcting your math. That's not 70-30.
Yes. So what he himself said is that he lied to the women in order to get them to agree to 70-30. He defrauded them by saying that he needs it to be 70-30 because of tax. And in his own words, it's not because of tax. And he's just tricking them into agreeing to that because, in his own words, girls are stupid and lazy. And once they hear the word tax, I bring up some form, like I get my friend to print out some tax forms. They're actually meaningless, and I give it to them to sign, and they think that something's happening, but nothing's really happening. And he basically really incriminates himself every step of the way.
You have proof? You have text messages? We want to see where you base that claim on, please.
The basis of that
Put it on the Jumbotron.
The basis of that claim is video he posted to his PhD program to teach men how to, or his work, one of his teaching men how to exploit women programs. And in that,
I've looked through all that stuff. Look, when Mario put on the thing about the lover boy,
I'll give you the mic in a bit, Raphael. Promise. Go ahead, Syrian Girl.
Thank you. Don't interrupt me, please.
And by the way, just Syrian Girl, just quickly, I want to kind of back it up. The team right now is messaging me saying that I'll read out, that claim is real. What Syrian Girl is saying, he said this on video. I saw it last night. So yeah, if you can get it to me, anyone, I'll pin it above just to make sure that we are basing it on evidence. But yeah, just wanted to mention that, Raphael, on your point. But I'll get the team to pin it above, Raphael, so it's clear for everybody. But yeah, sure. Syrian Girl, I'll let you finish before Raphael comments, and we'll go to Leia.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure that Crabman has something to say about this. The fact that this is supposedly
Crabman has a lot to say. I can't wait to go to Crabman.
The idea that this is all consensual and these women aren't being tricked is actually denied by Andrew Tate himself, and not just financially, but in other ways too. So I'll give it's going to speak for itself. The video will speak for itself. I'll give the floor to Leia.
And before going to Leia, and I know Raphael and Gideon want to respond to what Syrian Girl says. I want to leave that discussion for a bit later, because I know Suleiman and Syrian Girl went back and forth on a lot of the points that Syrian Girl made. So that's going to be a segment after the Crabman segment. And would love you guys to be on the panel to discuss that. But I want to quickly give the mic to Leia and then Suleiman, and then we'll kick it off with Crabman for the first segment.
Thank you, Mario. So I think what I want to make clear is that when you deal in any kind of business whereby there's an exchange of money for some kind of sexual service, whether it's a strip club, a webcam business, OnlyFans, it's a very shady area to deal in, 100%. And you know, it's as the saying goes: play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So for me personally, like, I'm not surprised that all of this is happening. With regards to what Syrian girl said about you know, him tricking the women or whatever, we will never really know what went on. We will never know. But if you're going to be, of course, you know, engaging in that kind of activity, then, you know, you're always going to get, you're playing a very dangerous game. And I want to echo what Fad said, and sorry, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, and also what Patrick Bet-David said. I think this is very politically driven. The establishment absolutely hate him. He is one of the most influential men of 2022, more searched than Kim Kardashian, so actually the most influential person. And absolutely, if you throw enough shit at the wall, something is going to stick. Again, whether it's taxes, whether it's, oh, the lover boy tactic, which, as Gideon mentioned, is incredibly ambiguous. So personally, I feel like they are going to do as much as they can to try and pin something on him. But we're getting, when we get down to it, it's going to be very nitty gritty. Did he trick them? Was it fully consensual? And for me personally, you will never really know. And you can only really go based off of somebody's character. And none of you, besides many people, besides just a couple of people in this room, have ever had the opportunity to even meet him or spend, you know, quite a lot of time with him. As Fade said, again, sorry, I don't think I'm pronouncing your name right. He is a completely different person in person, and his behavior is very different in person to who he is on the internet. You know, he is this big personality, and he's definitely creating some kind of persona of himself on the internet. And that could be to his own detriment, unfortunately, because he's pissed off all the wrong people. So that's my take. I really still think he's innocent, and I think innocent until proven guilty.
I just want to reply very
is it
quickly.
possible he has a? Is it possible there that he has a third personality that you haven't seen, that is only seen by the girls working for him in that place in Romania?
Sure, anything's possible, but like I said, you know, I've spent a lot of time with him. I think there's only so much of a personality you can hold up when you're with someone. When you spend a lot of time with somebody, you get to know them. And I don't think it's humanly possible to hold up a facade for so long unless there's some kind of psychopath, which again, I don't think he is.
Wait. I just want to know his views on gender since you know him. Just his view on women because you know him and have
Sure.
I want to steel man it.
So you're asking my opinion on you're asking what I think he thinks of women?
Yes, yeah.
Sure, that's a great question. I actually have the exact same opinion as Andrew on women. So I don't think men and women are equal. Andrew doesn't think men and women are equal. We physically are not equal. Men tend to be stronger and bigger. I think women aren't as aggressive as men. He doesn't think men are better, you know, spiritually than women, but he does think they are superior when it comes to you know, work, when it comes to fighting, when it comes to battling, when it comes to emotional resilience. You know, and these are things that I 100% agree. I think men are, generally speaking, again, because we can only talk in generally speaking, I generally think that men are more resilient than women. I think men have a drive to conquer that women don't have, and that is why he called women lazy. I don't think women are lazy as, you know, as the term goes, but I understand lazy in business. You know, if you, and Gideon can actually say this better than I can, but if you tell a woman, oh, you can make 1,000 an hour, you know, she's going to say, oh, okay, I'll work just 2 hours. That way I have $2,000 done. I'm happy. Whereas a man is going to work all those hours so that he can conquer more. So that's the difference. I do think men are, generally speaking, physically superior, emotionally more superior in terms of battling and taking on the world.
I just want to address Syrian's comments about the whole he's tricking women in terms of taxes or not giving the amount that they agreed. He has actually publicly said this in different videos. I think it was on the Nelk Boy podcast, which after that, I'm not surprised he got banned, because he spoke very publicly about all the things he did with these women. It's all on there if you want to watch it. And he also talked about these things in this PhD course. I've seen clips on YouTube. What he actually said was, he used a website called Chatterbait, I believe. I can't even remember the name. And on this website, they only paid in Bitcoin. for whatever reason. But then he said he would pay the girls in Bitcoin as well, because then he didn't need to handle their taxes, because the women didn't understand how to do all these technical things with HMRC or whoever it might be. So all he said was he's paying them in Bitcoin. And I'm not trying to be funny or anything. If the girls were smart, perhaps maybe they held on to the Bitcoin and 10x their money even. But that's all he said. He said the girls don't know how to do taxes because he believes they're not as technical. Generally speaking, women don't do technical things. Some are, but most are not. And they are lazy when it comes to these things. And they'd rather a man do it. And Andrew said, I'll pay you in Bitcoin. One, because the website Chatterbait, which he would use for the webcam, to use for the girls, paid him in Bitcoin. And then whatever cut, who knows? I have no idea what cut was arranged. He obviously got the lion's
Can I ask a question regarding the Bitcoin?
Girls in Bitcoin.
Can I ask a question, Mario? You remember the first day when reports were coming out, they said that Bitcoin wallets were also seized on top of the $10 million in cash. Has anything further been revealed about any of that? Could that be the reason?
You can't
Was it the girls'
Bitcoin wallets, by the way.
or
you can't seize Bitcoin wallets?
That's what the report said. I'm going off
I know.
of that.
I'm just saying they might say that, but I'm just saying, just so everyone is aware here, you can't freeze a Bitcoin wallet. It's a decentralized ledger.
Do you want to respond? Did you want to respond? Do you want to respond quickly to that? Sam and Steph, do you know anything about this particular point that Tara mentioned? Because I do want Syrian girl to respond and then Slayman to wrap it up.
Yeah, I will contradict Gideon. I think if he's keeping his Bitcoin on a ledger, then if they have the secret phrase, then they can just take.
I think the way that seize it, but Steph, I know that it happened with FTX as well. Wouldn't they just seize it and then move the funds to a new wallet? That's what happened with FTX when we covered that story.
No, that's not how it works. So FTX is a custodian and they will comply with an authority. When you hold Bitcoin in a cold storage wallet, only you have the private key and it can't be seized unless they take it.
Have there been any official statements about this? Because I'll be honest, I've not seen anything about this $10 million. It was a rumor on day one.
Not from my knowledge.
No, I think this is still a rumor, but it's fair game for debate. But I think this is still a rumor. I just want to add a little thing here. Just very briefly that girls, females, I'm afraid to say, gents, are academically superior to us. Studies of millions of high school children, university students have shown that women excel in science, tech, engineering, maths over guys. So, I just want to say that as a fact based on research. I'm just going to move on.
That's referring to conscientiousness. You're actually referring to conscientiousness. So, for example, women in school, of course, will do better. Girls in school, because they are actually more conscientious about what they're doing.
Correct.
That's something entirely different to technicalities.
Yeah, but Andrew, if Andrew's debate is that they are genetically inferior in terms of all these areas, and it's completely false.
It's not about genetics.
It's not about inferior.
Biologically, we're talking about this biologically.
Yeah. Anyway, but
go. Guys. So I'll go to Syrian. I'll just quickly respond because I know you put your hand up a couple of times. Slayman, I'd love you to wrap it up before we kick off Crabman's thread, which will probably be the crux of today's space, because he's done 3 very detailed threads that all the speakers received and was sent to you guys to kind of prep for it as well. Syrian girl, I'll let you respond. And by the way, Gideon, my team did send through a message about the Nelk Boys, just questioning what was said on the Nelk Boys podcast. But if you could share that, Gideon, that would be great. If you have the link, we could do it after the space as well, in case anyone asks from the audience. But I will go to Syrian girl before wrapping it up with Slayman and kicking off the Crabman thread debate.
Well, I'm really glad that Leia actually admitted that these women were being defrauded. She acknowledged the fact that.
I didn't admit that. I did not admit that.
Well,
thank you.
No, but you just said that these women, they are dumb in your words and they don't know what's happening, and that's why.
I didn't say that.
I'm sorry.
Those were not her words.
Those were not my words. And actually,
what were your words? Sorry,
please be very careful. I'll ask you to please be very careful what you accuse me of.
Well, I would ask also Suleiman in his thread. He also misrepresented a lot of what I was saying, and so did Fadi as well.
That has
he
nothing
said
to do
that I
with
was
you. You literally just misquoted me. Please don't do that.
and he made a lot of allegations.
That's irrelevant.
So I would ask you guys the same
I
thing.
never
Yeah, we'll
said- I
have.
never
Yeah, so we'll have.
said that.
We'll have. We'll go through the allegations. I think you're referring to Slayman's thread in a bit, right after Crabman's thread debate. So we'll do that afterwards. Syrian girl, it is on the agenda. Slayman, you've had your hand up for a while. First time on the panel. Really appreciate you joining, man. Appreciate your threads as well. Would love for you to comment on what was just said before we kick off Crabman's debate.
Can you hear me?
Yep, perfectly fine, man.
Brilliant. So I want to begin by saying thank you for having me on. And my perspective on this is that I'm looking at this not from somebody who's an Andrew Tate fan, but just purely from an academic point of view. And what I've seen is a lot of the information that has been posted on Twitter and has been presented as journalistic fact has not met the standards that are required. And so I felt, and the reason why I made those threads is because I felt that Andrew Tate, he's in prison, and ethically, people are attacking a man who doesn't have an opportunity to defend himself using chopped and edited clips. And I think that's unethical. And that is the reason why I decided to make the threads. And I've been quite clear on why the posts that have been made by Syrian Girl and some of the posts that have been made by Mario do not meet the standards that I expect. And just as an example of that, I'm Glenn Greenwald, who's a brilliant journalist. His only contribution to this has been the fact that the whole pizza box post by Alejandro Caraballo was inaccurate. And after that, he's not posted because a lot of the information and a lot of the content that's been used to try and demonstrate that Andrew Tate is guilty does not meet the standards. And so that's my first problem. And I know you're going to go through my thread later. The second point is this. Syrian Girl just mentioned a video. And in terms of the video, I have seen the video what she's referring to, where, and again, it was a chopped clip, so I haven't seen the entirety of the video, but I know chopped clips are quite common in this issue. But even in that chopped clip, it doesn't say that there was exploitation. What at worst it would show is that Andrew Tate is not declaring certain level of finances to the taxman. In terms of the women were aware. The reasoning of why he was taking more money and saying he's going to give tax and not giving it, that's between him and the taxman, but it's not between him and the woman. That's the first point. The second point is this. In terms of, can I just, sorry, yeah?
That's correct.
Yeah, and the second point is this. In terms of Steph's definition of a lover boy, he mentioned two key points. First of all, he said extortion needs to be in place. Well, we've not seen any evidence of extortion. I accept that it's one of the statements made by the police and the DICOT that is something they're looking at. But again, he's not being charged for that. But in terms of the evidence on Twitter, that has not been furnished. The second point is this. Again, Steph mentioned prostitution. Well, prostitution is, broadly speaking, very different to cam girl business, which is different to social media, Instagram, where women are basically selling their, bodies or selling pictures or whatever it may be. So just to call the webcam business or OnlyFans and put it all under the umbrella of prostitution is actually incorrect as well. So those are my initial comments. I am aware that you're going to go through my threads. So I'll give more comments.
Yeah. I just wanted to comment that I think you're totally right. I didn't get to finish my point when I was talking about the lover boy method. I wanted still to mention the fact that I don't think that Andrew Tate has been using this girl for prostitution, not at all. But I think that the method that he's been using, which is like the lover boy, because again, I'm not saying this, like Andrew Tate stated publicly multiple times, I can send you the links, where he says, he's describing very well, he's using the lover boy method to attract those women and turn them into employees for his webcam business. Now, what we need to understand is this is the nuance that it's very important to understand, is that people in Romania, and especially the legal system, has a different perspective about this method. And when they are hearing lover boy method, they're automatically, right, because that's one of the things about psychology, they automatically attach it to the method that they're used to from the actual criminals. Okay, so that, in my opinion, is how we should see things.
Yeah,
I do want to just quickly.
Sorry, one point. But Steph, once again, you've not clearly identified in terms of what Andrew Tate did that actually meets the definition of lover boy. In terms of your initial definition, he doesn't meet that requirement.
Well, you can see it on the internet. He states himself that he describes the method very well. I can find it and I can.
Well, this is the problem. You see, I have looked at the internet. I have looked at a lot of the content in order to write my post. I didn't do it in a vacuum. And
did you see, Sammy? Did you see the tweet that I did earlier today? Just quoted from his website. Did you look at that? I'll read it out again.
I did
okay, cool.
that, and I think Raphael's already commented.
Can you read it out? I didn't see it.
I'll read it. Yeah. I'll read it quickly. Yeah, I understand it's a lovable method. We could discuss it later as well, Slayman, because I know we're going to go through a lot of the points you've made, because you did research the topic pretty well. So I'll read it out for Tara and anyone that just joined before we kick off the Crabman debate. My job was to meet a girl, go on a few dates, sleep with her, test if she's quality, get her to fall in love with me, to where she'd do anything I say, and then get her on a webcam so we could become rich together. Now, this was mentioned on Andrew Tate's website, and I think, Raphael, you responded to it pretty well, you know, kind of giving the other side of it and why it's not illegal, doesn't count as Loverboy. And I'd love to discuss this a bit further after the Crabman thread. I also want to respond briefly
Mario,
to...
can I just say one thing, because I'm actually pressed on time right before we get to the crab, and actually this has something to do with you. So I'd like to give you a little bit of criticism that you say that you are very, very unbiased, you're objective, you don't care about the Matrix and yada, yada. However, your tweet record would say the opposite, where you seem to come off quite biased, and a lot of the replies on your tweets would say that, you know, you're not putting any, you know, positions that defend Tate, but you're only putting tweets out there that are, I don't know how else to say, but anti-Tate. Now, one example that I'll give is you put up that chopped up clip saying, how many crimes can you spot here? I spotted 0. And it took me less than 20 minutes to just sit in my hotel room. I'm actually traveling right now, which is why I have to leave in a few minutes. Just going through Rumble and TikTok, just searching the thing. Less than 20 minutes, found every clip. What the heck was that?
Yeah, not sure. It sometimes happens. I just muted. I think from Slayman. Yeah, so I'll just quickly comment on that point, because I think Slayman edited it in their thread. So first, just one point about being biased. Gideon. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Gideon, sorry. 1, 2, 5, 4, 8, 9. We've got 9 speakers on the panel right now. Gideon is more supportive of Tate. Raphael, you're more supportive of Tate. Slayman as well. That's 3. Fadi as well. 4. And Leia, that's 5. Crabman, you're more critical. Syrian Girl, you're more critical. And Tara, you're more critical. That's obviously, simplifying.
No, because I agree with I agree with Andrew politically on pretty much every single thing he says. So essentially, all I'm trying to do is find out the truth. I don't think he would be in jail and be held for this long if there wasn't some serious allegations against him. So I would say prior to all of this, I was very much, you know, I appreciated a lot of what Andrew Tate said about the establishment, but didn't know a lot of these details.
I'll ask one question quickly to the panel, because I do want to move on to Crabman's thread. Just one thing to the panel: put your hand up if you're you don't like you don't like Tate before the arrest, and you think he deserves to be arrested. Just put your hand up. So it's Crabman, and I'm guessing Syrian Girl as well. I'm just going to guess. So the point I'm making, Raphael, is I'm trying really hard to keep it unbiased, and the panel kind of represents this. Only 2 people out of 8, 9 speakers put their hand up. And now in terms of the tweet, you're right.
I'm speaking to your,
the tweet. The tweet. I'm going to refer. Yeah, of course. So the tweet that you referred to, I thought twice about it before tweeting it. But if you look at it, it's just a question. Now, does it imply that he's guilty? Yes. I thought about it twice before, tweeting it. I just thought it's still worth tweeting. I know I got a bit of criticism because taken out of context, but I wasn't making any allegations.
It's utterly wrong. And going back to
what's wrong? It's a question. Hold on, man. It's a question. It's a question, bro. It's a question. That's the thing I want to confirm. I didn't say he's criminal. Just count. Could be 0. That's the point I'm making. And a lot of people did say 0. So
Mario, I think this is actually a prime example of why a lot of people haven't spoken up and spoken out. And I'm not saying you're bullying Mario, but I think a lot of people are fearful of the backlash that they'll get. Just in the little bit of the time that I spent in Mario's first space regarding Andrew Tate, I was receiving an extreme amount of hateful messages, just for being in here. So I can attest to, some of the commentary and the backlash that you get for even, being in the middle or hosting a space like this. So, and I'm not going to defend anyone, but Mario putting his neck on the line and doing this in order to get to the bottom of things and get the information should not be the one being pressed right now or, attacked for asking questions
I'm sorry.
bringing forward the
But if you're
information
gonna
that's
put
being brought
yourself
to
out
him.
there and command such a large space, there are certain responsibilities you have to have.
Well, I do want to say,
Mario, I'm not coming.
All of you are speaking at the same time. Raphael, I accept the criticism, man. Slayman actually did a thread about it. And instead of me criticizing him, I've actually sent him a thank you and invited him up on stage. So I accept the criticism 100%.
You invited me as well.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, exactly. And I've even did a tweet, and I'm going to do one again just to remind the audience, like, criticize me when I'm not objective, when I seem biased. It's very hard to be unbiased. And if you look at everyone else covering Tate, I haven't found one person that's unbiased, not one. It's either they despise him or they adore him. So I'm treading a thin line, and obviously it won't be perfect the whole time, but I do appreciate the criticism, man. And that tweet, the point you've made is valid, and I think Slayman's point as well on the thread is valid. Slayman pointed two things out before we go to Crabman, because I want to really get that debate going. He pointed two things out. That video, which again is a question, but I understand your concern, and a lot of the comments did say zero, like there's nothing that is illegal there.
Hear this?
And I think another thing. Yeah, I'm not sure who's speaking. And the other point is that Slayman mentioned was an article I tweeted that we could not verify the claims in it. Yeah, true. We do tweet articles that we think are worth tweeting. That was one worth tweeting that was critical. Today we tweeted an article by the same publication, by the same outlet, I think, that was more supportive of Tate and spoke about a girl that was speaking up in support of Tate. So we do tweet things that we could not verify ourselves. I don't have 200 employees for this. And we do clearly state when something is verified by our team. But again, I have one
last comment before I leave the space.
Welcome to the internet. This is.
Yeah, I'll let Raphael make the final comment before we go to Crabman, if you don't mind, guys. Yeah, go ahead, Raphael.
So in that chopped up clip, that almost all of it was complete misdirection, taken out of context. It's like those auto-tuned songs that people have where Trump sings like a Kanye West song or something. If you take chopped up clips, you can make someone say anything. So my last question is, would you put a correction to that or pin something or something of the sort? Number one. And then number two, there is a video going around of Andrew Tate's ex-girlfriend who has spent, years with him or months or a lot of intimate time with him and have given multiple videos. But you've never tweeted that, but you've tweeted this.
Yeah, send them. Send them through, man. Send them through. I'd love any videos. I'll do a clip. How about this? I'll do a clip of different people supporting Tate and refuting a lot of the claims made. So I'll do that. I think it would balance it out a bit. So I think that would be a good response.
Yeah, I don't mind anything that's out there that's true. Like the Loverboy clip that you posted, very, very valid from his website. Extremely valid. No issues with that. But the chopped up stuff, that's like.
I got that from you know the lawyer that covers Tate. He's been covering him for a while. I forgot his name.
He's a joke. I would never hire him. I saw it. I could not believe an actual lawyer put that out, and it's such a travesty when people with authority and credentials put out nonsense like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I used the clip from him, so I kind of I don't know much about him, but valid point. Appreciate Slayman, and I want to go to Crabman.
Thank you.
Crabman, you've been waiting patiently, man. You've got very detailed threads criticizing Tate. You've spoken to a lot of witnesses. Some things you can share, some things you cannot share, and you humbly accepted the request to come on stage and discuss those. So I'm very grateful for you giving us your time. And we've got a great panel here to go through the various things, the various claims in your thread. What we can do, Crabman, just for the audience to keep track as well, is as you discuss different tweets, you can click on the share button and then share in this space so people can see it pinned above as you discuss them, if you like. And then this way speakers could go through it and then respond accordingly. So speakers, if you want to respond, just put your hand up. This is probably the highlight of the space. I've been pretty excited for this part. So Crabman, the mic is yours. We'll go through one point, point by point, just to give the panel the opportunity to respond.
Okay, wow, this is kind of a tough room here. Ooh, I just wanted to thank you, Mario, for this whole thing. And I just hope to have this whole discussion be like a choo-choo train. We can make some stops along the way, but I just want to get through this journey because
I made this thread back in April, and now it caught on fire, and it's messy, and it got complicated. And I have a job here to just, talk about it and really sort this whole conversation out. And I wanted to acknowledge my own biases and faults, because I did not look at that stupid pizza box claim deeper when I posted it, and I should have. I mean, I posted the correction later, but like, here I'm not a freaking cop. And I'll be repeating that sort of sentiment throughout. I'll respect the investigation, because the Romanian authorities, I had zero faith in whatsoever to prosecute them in the first place. So whatever they come to as a conclusion is really their best bet. But like, these accusations have been going as far back as like February 2019, if not sooner, way before Andrew Tate was a household name, or whatever you want to call it. And that DICOT group or whatever, back in November 22, clamped down on some of Tate's associates in the casino business. So like, there's this whole other element to this thing that we're not going to be able to really fully understand. I agree with that point. But like, on the, to argue here, there's a burden for social media people to be on the up and up. We're not really giving Tate that same standard of, accountability we'd ask of like Logan Paul or whatever. But like, things have gotten weird, because like, they're deflecting to Epstein, and I'm not afraid to really criticize my own backyard here in terms of bias.
That's perfect. So where would you like to kick off in your thread? What's the first point you want to bring up? And then we can get the panel to respond.
Yeah. Like, I want to say, as I'm pulling this up, this isn't the first time that I've actually talked about this issue. Like, years ago, I did a WordPress post about this other pimp who decided to lure in girls with mushrooms, and that was interesting, but you can look that up on your own time. What I want to start with is the fact that Tristan Tate just told everyone, his business is a big scam. Like, that's his description, not mine. Like, how can people really, interface with the rest of this conversation with that in mind? I mean, they're saying, yes, we lure in loser men, horny men, and take away their life savings. Like, when it comes to free speech,
so did he explain? But did he explain why he thinks it's a scam?
Let me pull up the piece. No one cares. It's their problem, not mine. Customers fall for the belief that they can have a real relationship with the women they see on screen. Like, that's an element here that is really prevalent if we're talking about the base. Like, Tristan and Andrew have really said that the source of their wealth, no matter how many different revenue streams they have, it comes back to cam girls. It comes back to this.
But cam girls is not a scam. So before you respond, Slayman and Leia, Nick, do you want to elaborate on what Crabman said, and then we'll get Slayman and Leia to respond?
Just one quick point. Basically, what Tristan had said, and this is a quote, that they were selling fake sob stories to male callers, claiming to have made millions of dollars doing so. He later said that the business model was a total scam. So that's the context for that.
Slayman, I'd love your response on this point.
Yeah, of course, this point is quite weak, and I'll explain why. Because, again, the whole entire webcam, OnlyFans, social media, the entire industry. Now, if your ethical framework is that none of this is allowed, which is mine, that's fine. But that's not the paradigm of Western society that we live in. In Western society, this is not. This is accepted, and it is an exploitation of men as opposed to women. I agree with that. But again, that's not what he's being charged for. Because what I mean is, if that's your problem, then you should be.
No. I'm just kidding.
You should be trying to shut down the entire industry, including Instagram, where men are spending stupid amounts of money, including OnlyFans, where men are spending stupid amounts of money, including webcams, where men are spending stupid amounts of money. So if you're,
I just like to add that he's scamming the men, not the women.
No, that's my point. That's my point. It's male exploitation. But my point is this: the male exploitation. If that's your argument, then all of these industries should be shut down, and that should be your argument. Not your. So your disagreement isn't with Tate; it's with the entire Western ideology and the entire industry.
Leia, you wanted to add something to this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was literally just going to echo what he just said. I don't think he's saying that it's a scam. Like, nobody's getting scammed. It's not like he's taking their money and then not giving them the product. He's just saying that he's literally manipulating these men. And as the man before me just said, so what? That's business. Everybody's manipulating somebody. That's how the world works. That's the same as Instagram. It's the same as OnlyFans. Men are being exploited all the time. You know, if you look at a man's Instagram account, he'll just see women's bums everywhere. They do that to keep you on the apps. Should we now shut down Instagram and put them in jail? Well, no. So I think that point is weak. That's not even a point. So yeah.
Yeah, it's not even a point. The other thing is Tristan Tate and both Andrew have also publicly said that these men who the girls were messaging, who, yes, they might have said, I love you so much when they don't love the man, these men would actually even meet the girls. And yes, the men might have even paid them 50 grand or 100 grand to meet this. But this is nothing new. Do you know, this is very, very rare. This is a very tiny percentage of men who might be shrewd or smart enough to do this. Most women in the real world actually manipulate most men. They can take a rich man's money so easily by leading them on as if the man thinks something's going to happen with this beautiful woman, but all she's interested in is maybe flying on jets, nightclubs, Chanel handbags. It's a very common thing between human individuals. This is what we do to each other. And unfortunately, some people perhaps aren't on the ball and can't see it happening. And you just have to be careful and keep your guard up as individuals. Most of these men were losers. They were beta males. They were unhappy with their marriages. Their wives didn't talk to them. They were lonely. And they took advantage of that. And guess what? Corporations, businesses, marketing people take advantage of everyone every day based on people's emotions. This is life. So it's a very irrelevant point. You know,
I just want to, can I just add something to that? Can I just add something really important to that? Just for a second. I've also heard both Andrew and Tristan say that in this back and forth between the men and the women, a lot of men, their lives were saved. There were men that were sitting there suicidal, saying, my wife doesn't talk to me, my wife's cheating on me, my kids hate me. And then you have this girl, it's probably Andrew pretending to be her, talking to him saying, no, we love you, we value you. So actually, yes, they manipulated them, but a lot of these men, their lives were saved. This is what they also publicly talk about.
Do you think it's stable to build things out alive like that, though?
There are many OnlyFans girls who don't have.
Sorry, Crabman, I'll let you respond if you don't mind, Gideon. Crabman, I'll let you respond before I get Sam and Syrian Girl's thoughts on this, just to balance it out, and we'll go to the next point. Do you want to respond, Crabman?
Yeah, I mean, like, people are now saying, so what? I mean, like, they're saying already it's a scam. Like, at the very least, you could see why other people have a problem with it. Yeah.
Sam, what do you think at this point, Sam?
I mean, it's interesting listening to it. I've taken on feedback from previous spaces, incidentally, where I'm desperately trying not to jump in when I feel something is untrue. So, listen, the reality is there's fair comments from everybody on this. These aren't the alleged crimes. Exploiting men is not the alleged crimes. But I also do not believe that the majority of businesses are out to get people. I do not believe.
Yeah, they are. That's business. That's business.
Right, that's your opinion. I've run several successful businesses that are the opposite, that run ethically and try to benefit the clients and the business simultaneously. And I know many very successful business people who run their businesses like that. I just want like one quote. I don't believe that the core of businesses in our world are to. Yes, to exploit people, if you want to use that word, in other words, to sell stuff to people, but stuff that, you know, will hopefully benefit them or that they need. I don't believe that businesses are set up deliberately, unethically, literally to screw people. Like, I don't believe, because if it was Andrew Tate sat on the keyboard, you know, chatting to some middle-aged guy in his bedroom, that is, you know, that is deliberately fraudulent. I don't personally know.
But that's very what every OnlyFans girl does.
Yeah, it seems surprisingly. Yeah, Gideon, that's what Gideon's saying.
And they're not managed by men, women. Do you know there's so many women out there with millions and millions of OnlyFans followers promising men dreams that they're going to be together. And they're not even managed by men. These are very smart women doing this to millions and millions of men. Now, if the man is a sucker like that, then so be it. You can't. It's very much a free.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you that there are certain industries absolutely where that is the focus. I think to say universally that all businesses are set up to scam people, I just don't believe it, because I know it's
not to scam people.
No, I don't think all businesses are set up to scam people.
Not to scam, but to take their money.
There are genuine ways to take people's money by selling them a product that they use and
enjoy.
Of course.
I do that.
I just want to bring it back to the point that Suleiman said this is irrelevant. It has nothing to do with rape or trafficking. It's true, whatever you guys are saying.
That one's valid. That's
irrelevant to Andrew Tate. These aren't the alleged charges.
Yeah, true. I think it's a valid point. So Crabman, do you want to go to the next point? And probably one more related if you got one.
I'm hearing the feedback, and I just want to cut to the chase and really talk about the meat and potatoes. When we talk about Andrew Tate stealing passports, that removes the element of consent from this whole discussion. Like, I don't want to dick around here. Like, if he stole passports, that means he wants control over these women. And this has not only been confirmed with one source, it's been corroborated by a second source.
And I know you said there's one in our call. You said one source you cannot share. The second source, are you able to share that one?
Well, yeah, it's the story from this guy named Tell Your Son This, and he and Andrew Tate really got back into it, you know, back in August 2019. Let me just pull up my notes here, but like, Andrew Tate really can't control what he says online. Like, that's one of the main issues. Hold on, I gotta Control F.
Yeah, while you do that, Slayman, do you want to respond to this particular point?
Yeah, I just want to see the evidence of that, if that's possible.
Yeah,
Yeah, so can I just jump in here? Like I said, there are millions of girls and other businesses doing similar things. The only reason they've come after Andrew and Tristan is because they have become a target now. They're a target. Look at the divisive things they're speaking about online in terms of, you know, corporations and governments. You know, and as for the passport thing, I think everybody should have multiple passports. Don't look at this thing as like, oh, he's a very shady character because he has multiple passports were seized.
But everybody should. His point, but when he talked about those seven passports, not 2 or 3, 7, which is a lot.
Doesn't matter. 70 passports. Why
Mario,
not?
I'm in
that's none of your
Mario, my
business.
friend, I'm in the process right now of getting multiple passports. Right now, I have a few. I have a couple. I want more because of what happened a few years ago with lockdown when they controlled us all. You need to be on multiple grids. It's an absolute necessity. So you can take everything about Andrew Tate and you can spin it in a way that incriminates him. For example, maybe he sold a guitar on eBay. Oh, didn't pay a tax on that. No problem. Got you. That's all they're doing right now. He's become too big, too popular, too influential, and they do this to every single person who becomes big and influential, from Jimi Hendrix, Michael Jackson.
This is Gideon. Let me jump
Unless,
in. This is
unless
what
you
happens.
donate.
This is the reality. Let me just
Unless
speak
you
for a minute. Can I just speak for a minute? Because this is an
I've had
important
my
subject
hand
matter.
raised for a while, Sam, and I just want to add to what Gideon was saying, and then I'll be quiet.
Okay,
but
Tara,
I
and then
just
I'll
wanted
jump up.
really quickly wanted to say, unless you donate to the Democratic Party. But anyway, that's beside the point. I wanted to add to what he was saying, and say I don't think that anyone would really even be looking into this as much if it hadn't all gone down the day after he had this online spat with Greta and all of that. So I think that there is something definitely suspicious about the timing of all of this, especially when a lot of the talking points and a lot of the footage and whatever things that they supposedly have on Andrew are from years and years ago. So I think that it is questionable that so much is happening now, the day after. I mean, the timing is impeccable. And the truth is, if you donate to the right people and the right party, you do seem to get off the hook. I mean, look at Sam Bankman-Fried, who robbed people of so much money. It's absolutely insane. But he also donated, almost 100% to one side of the spectrum. And that side has a tendency to get the right people off the hook legally, and also end people's lives who they don't like politically. So it is a scary world that we live in, and honestly, it should be looked at. And I just want to say I appreciate you, Mario, for having a mixed crowd up here. And I'm mixed. I mean, one minute I'm like, oh my gosh, I see something, I hear something, but then I have to question, why wasn't this already happening years ago? Why are these videos surfacing now, and why is he being arrested the day after a spat with Greta? It's just too weird. The timing's too weird.
I think Tara is spot on there. I think
Sam, I'll let you respond. Yeah, I'll let you respond. I know Cowlin and no, Simon. Cowlin and then New Era are up here as well. So I'll give them the mic right after, and then Slyman to wrap it up. Slyman, I'm just going to get Sam to jump in now if you don't mind.
Okay.
And then I'll give it to you at the end before going back to Crabman. Go ahead, Sam.
Look, so an ongoing theme here that we all acknowledge is the theory that the establishment or whoever it is that they are trying to take Andrew Tate down because he's seen a threat. We use the term the Matrix, which is kind of this belief system that we've been indoctrinated by our culture and social systems, and we have to live a certain way in the 9 to 5, and that people like Andrew are a big threat to this. Now, I'm going to talk for like 60 seconds, and then everyone can respond and tell me that I'm wrong, and that's absolutely fine. There are countless people over modern culture, over the last 100 years, who have tried to encourage you to break out of the matrix using financial freedom. You know, go back to Napoleon Hill. He wrote a book in 1937 called Think and Grow Rich. Robert Kiyosaki has written books about this, talked about this. Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss had a global bestseller, was very big sort of 5-10 years ago, taught people how to break out of the matrix 9 to 5. Tate's University borrows from these books. The syllabus lists that the syllabus is real estate flipping, affiliate marketing through Amazon, copywriting, etc. So what I'm trying to understand here is, what is the specific threat that Tate has to the establishment? That Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss, Kiyosaki, etc. They're all enjoying their freedoms. They haven't been targeted, although they've been encouraging young men to have financial freedom.
I can answer that one.
Empowered. Let me carry on just for 1 minute, and then definitely want you to answer. Tate was banned specifically from social media for misogynistic, very specific quotes about women should bear responsibility for sexual assault. That is when he was systematically banned. He was not banned for having a university to help empower people. He doesn't have particularly strong political views. He said very little about COVID. He said very little about climate change, apart from this trolling with Greta.
Very little
he's
about
not
COVID.
JFK. He's not Martin. He's not JFK. He's not Martin Luther King. He's
What a
not
joke.
Julian Assange. He is a guy who sells get-rich-quick schemes, right? He's a guy who says misogynist stuff about women and sells schemes to get rich. So why would there be a multiple government conspiracy to take someone down who sells get-rich-quick schemes on the internet and says stuff about women? He has, he said a little bit about COVID, but very little. He is not one of the leading anti-vaccine advocates of our world, very much so. He's, like I said, so open it up. Tell me I'm wrong. That's absolutely fine. That's
Okay,
cool.
I'll give guys Gideon. I'll give you the mic in a bit, Gideon. If you don't mind, do you mind if I get New Alpha to jump in on this one first, and Caroline, and then Slayman, and we'll go to you, Gideon, if you don't mind, then Siri and go to wrap it up. If you don't mind, guys. But New Alpha, I'll let you go first if you don't mind, man.
Thanks a lot. A few quick points. Sam, I suggest you look at a bit deeper into Tate's content, brother. He was all about anti-COVID, to the point where he was purposefully flying around on jets as the world was locking down to prove a point. He's spoken against the elites. He's spoken against the bankers. He's incredibly anti-establishment. So I suggest that, respectfully, you look a little deeper into his content.
Secondly, this is correct.
I'd like to just chat to the claim that our man Crabman has brought up. While I admire the depth with which he's looked into things, this whole tell your son this as a source. Look a bit deeper, friend. Tell your son this, and Andrew Tate had an ongoing beef for years. They are literally internet enemies. So the only evidence you put forward is an enemy of Tate saying Tate said bad things. It's just not credible. Now, no.
Hold on.
People need.
I'll give you the mic. I'll give you the mic to respond, Crabman. Don't worry. So you have your point.
Yeah. People need to learn how to cross-check sources properly. And again, I went through government training. I appreciate a lot of people haven't. You cannot say, I have one source, which is a guy who hates Tate, and you can find that if you dig deep enough, and have another source who I can't mention, and therefore it's verified information. This is such blatant speculation that it completely ruins the credibility of anything that's posted or discussed in these spaces. It's quite unprofessional.
So one of the things I want to mention real quick is the fact that, going back to refer to Sam's point here, the exact quote on Twitter, which is what got him suspended at the time, was, women have been exchanging sex for opportunity for a very long time. Some did this, weren't abused. If you put yourself in a position to be raped, you must bear some responsibility. I'm not saying it's okay. You got raped, though. So
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's correct. He never said women are responsible for being raped. It's their fault. He's just simply saying, if you open up the clips that have been cut up to make him sound bad, if you open them up, he's saying things like, for example, if my girl said to me she wants to go out and it's nighttime, I'll tell her no. Does that make me controlling or authoritative over her entire world? No, it's because he's protective over her. And he's saying, maybe don't wear that when we go out tonight, because that is going to attract maybe the wrong person to come up and maybe try grab your ass or do something bad to you. It's simple things like that which get taken completely out of context. That's a very normal thing. If my girl said to me she wants to go out at night, if my girl said she wanted to go out at night, I'd say no.
Gideon, specifically, how is this a threat to global governments?
Right, I'll address that. Thank you. Okay, so first of all, you said Okay, thank you. So first of all, you said that he hasn't been speaking about COVID. So like the other person said I couldn't remember the name, I'm sorry.
I'm just going to correct you. I said he hasn't been a particularly vocal advocate of COVID compared to
no
many
problem.
other people.
Well, I'll tell you, he has been vocal. I have watched a lot of his content, and he has been exceptionally vocal, flying around on jets, saying it's all a scam. It's called scandemic, plandemic. It's all planned to print more money and to do all these other things to become more tyrannical in our lives and restrict our human freedoms, which I 100% agree with. He also has spoken many times about why you shouldn't get vaccinated. Him and his brother both compare. There's a big Twitter thread of taking a vaccine, the equivalent of basically like taking a dildo in the arse. You can't undo it. He's been that vocal about it. I'm sorry for the graphic pictures about that, but I just want to make a point. He has been absolutely vocal in all his vlogs, on all podcasts, on my sister's podcast that both Leia and I produced when I met him in Miami. He was very vocal. Go watch that. It has like 10 million views on YouTube. I spoke to him after in Miami about this. So when you talk like this about COVID and the bankers and corporations controlling the world, and you have that much influence over the people, they don't want you loud, especially when you have such a great audience, which is young men. Young men are literally the future, who can almost control the world by starting revolutions and rising up. If he has these type of demographics in his back pocket by saying, guys, you should be more like this, women should be more like this pulls away from their power massively. This is one of the reasons, but we can go into so much detail, but I don't know how you might all call me a conspiracy theorist in this spaces, but it goes very deep, the Matrix, in terms of how they control us.
A genuine request to people listening. Can somebody put together a compilation of Andrew talking about COVID, politics, and things like this?
Sam, it would be 10 hours long.
Just watch the interview.
Sam, it would be 10 hours long.
With Andrew Tate.
Out of how many
it's
hours
all there.
of content?
Can I
If he's done
just add
10,000
something?
hours of content,
Yes, Andrew is so anti-establishment that he has been on so many podcasts, and these podcasts that he went on, these people, they didn't upload the content because they thought it would get taken down.
That's correct.
If these people, and fuck it, I'll name names. You know, Pomp did his podcast with Andrew Tate back in 2021. He didn't upload it until 2022 when it became socially acceptable. If Pomp did a podcast with Tony Robbins, would he upload it? Yes. The reason they didn't upload the Andrew Tate one was because of how anti-establishment he is. He's very niche compared to all the other names that you mentioned. He specifically talks about bankers, the central banks. This is something that nobody else really is doing. And also
everybody talks about the corruption of central banks. I know about 50 fund managers on Twitter.
Yeah, but Sam, no one knows your name.
At his level,
no one knows your name. No kids care about you. No kids care about you. So why would they try cancel you, buddy?
I'm not talking about me. I have no opinion on this. I'm talking about fund managers.
Yeah, I think it's a very valid point. Like, there's a lot more people that are vocal. Yeah, of course, Slimmy. I was just going to go to you. Go ahead, man. And then right after that, I'll go to Cowlin because he's been waiting for a while, and then Siren go. Go ahead, man.
Right, okay, so there's 2 points I want to make. First of all, to answer Crabman's point, and the second one is to answer Sam's point. The Sam one's going to be slightly longer. But basically, Crabman, I've just looked at the evidence that you produced, and what it says is there's an individual who Alpha is claiming has issues with Tate. But what he's basically saying is, guess what? I've got some screenshots. And then when you ask him for him, he says, I haven't got them. So how is that evidence? That's not evidence. That's literally
no. Okay, hold on.
He's got evidence.
No,
but it's not
right
available.
now.
Let me
right
finish,
now,
please.
we have another source right in the wings, and we're going to be publishing it in the days to come. And this person,
that's fine. When you publish it, we can then make comment on that, can't we? But we can't make it right now.
Jesus.
No,
the other thing, Sam, the reason why this person is being cancelled is because he's talking about specific things to do with men and women, like gender issues. This is very important. Now, Tony Robbins and all these other people weren't speaking, or whoever it might be, Robert Kiyosaki and Napoleon Hill's book about Think Big and Grow Rich. His book doesn't talk about gender issues. He's talking about how a man is a man and a woman is a woman. A man can't get pregnant. The whole media right now is obsessed with trying to turn men into women and women into men. Now we can go down that reason why, but that's another discussion. Now, just to add, this is why they don't like him. Just to demonstrate Sam Tate's influence. First of all, obviously, Leia's mentioned his level of notoriety in terms of YouTube. So if you look at YouTube, he's the most watched person on YouTube. If you look at anyone's channel, for example, Piers Morgan, his views are much more than global stars such as Cristiano Ronaldo, Kanye, and so on and so forth.
Then if you look at the educational system, so in the educational system, you have a scenario where the state decides what children want to learn. And what they have in the UK is something called safeguarding. Now, in a lot of schools, if you mention Tate, that is escalated as a safeguarding issue, or even to the level that it even goes to prevent. So that is the level of fear that people have about Andrew Tate, that this type of steps were only taken for ideologies, or for example, terrorism. But in schools, a lot of now, in many schools, these steps have been taken. Now, the question can be, why are these steps being taken for Tate as opposed to other people? And then obviously people will explain the reason for it. Another example is Greta. She posted and she was only getting 5,000 to 10,000 likes. It's only when she's responded to Tate, she got 2 of the largest liked tweets in the history of Twitter, and her racist tweet got the most, was like 4th. So these are the examples of demonstrating the level of impact that he's having. And in schools where people are fearful of his impact on society, because schools are where society decides what people are going to think, what people are going to believe, their ideologies and thoughts, his name is banned in most schools.
Basically, he has influence over the best demographic, the young men, and the establishment, the media. They do not like this. He's changing the entire narrative.
They didn't ban Trump's name. They haven't banned anybody else's name. They've only just banned his name. That says a lot.
I'll go to Colin. You've been waiting for a while, and then Syrian Girl to wrap it up before we go to the next point from Crabman. So Crabman, I'll let you prepare your second argument as well, and then we can continue with that. Colin, go ahead.
Oh, hey, I don't have a huge lot of information to add with this, but I've been listening to it so far about how we're talking about coercion and consent and the idea about how Andrew's been treating people and whether these women were consenting or not. I met Andrew in 2018. I had a business venture and he flew me and a couple of right-wing commentators out to his house, the one that's just been raided again, or confiscated. And he picked me up from Bucharest airport. We were driving in one of his cars to the house in Bucharest. And I remember asking him, because we were going through like a really shitty neighborhood to get there, why not stay in London? You know, he was boasting about having all this money when he picked me up from the airport. And he was like, well, I'm a little bit on the run from looting at the moment. I can't really stay in London at the moment. Like, the police are pretty pissed at me. Basically, that he's been doing stuff he really shouldn't be doing. And I was like, well, why go to Romania? Why not go to basically a country that doesn't look like this? And he said, because I've got the Romanian police in my pocket. If I want it, they're easily bribed. I can look after things. And I like to tell my chicks that too. I thought that was a bit weird. And it was basically something he described to me later as he would, when these girls would fall in love with him, when he would hoard them up in his house, he would remind them that the police would be in his pocket. And a lot of these girls were from outside Romania. They don't really know the area. Maybe they try to escape or they want to leave. Maybe he makes one call and they think they might not be able to leave the country. And a huge part of it was him describing how that was one of his main tactics, was reminding these women that the police were on his side and that they couldn't really go. He also showed me when we went into his house, there was like a phone box. And it only had like 4 phones in it or something, when he was giving me like a tour of all the rooms. And he said, like, when the girls come to the house and when I really get a girl that likes me, I'll say, like, if you really trust me, you put your phone in the box and you don't need to talk to anyone. You just need to talk to me. I'm the only person that matters. And they lose a lot of contact with the outside world. So you've got like a person, maybe from the other side of the world, who he's hooked up with on Instagram, who thinks he's lovely and innocent. And, oh, sorry, I'm nervous talking about this. First time I've held on to this stuff for a long time because I've been turned down by a lot of media to talk about it in the right way, but it's just, it was just super, super intense. And I just can imagine the situation that a lot of those girls would have been in, who think they're going to go and fall in love with some guy and move into this great house. They have their phone basically kind of taken away, but then they feel like, well, I can't even sneak out a window because what if I get arrested and brought back here? Or what if I have my passport taken away because the police and the person in this dodgy country runs the local unit? And I just thought, in terms of consent, that was fucking terrible to see. And really, really, really damning. There's other stuff that's happened and other stuff as well, but I think in terms of this conversation, that was just a really, really damning moment in terms of consent.
Well, we appreciate you come and say this because, I mean, we haven't. I have to say we haven't. Mario, I'm guessing we haven't. Have we verified this? I'm not. No offense whatsoever, but obviously we try and verify everything. But yeah, I think you're one of the first people who, you know, have had like direct experience with Andrew. You know, who's come out and said this side.
He used the word
comment on that either way.
He literally used the word imagine when explaining. He didn't see anything. He used the word imagine.
No,
Let's be real
no,
specific
stop
with our
it.
interpretation.
No, I said imagine being a woman in that situation.
No,
After
you said,
and
I
gave
imagine
direct
that would be
quotes.
terrible in regards to consent, were your words. You didn't
Imagine
see
being a
anything.
woman in that situation and not being able to leave that house because you think you're going to be arrested. Imagine
You
that
didn't
situation.
see
I
anything,
imagine that
friend.
would be
You're
terrible.
making assumptions.
I've
These are
got
all
flight reports showing that he booked my flight. I've got evidence. I'm one of the first people who's been at his house that's talking out
I don't
against
doubt
that
that you've
stuff.
been at his house. I'm doubting the fact that you haven't seen him do these things, and I've been around him for 4 years.
He's not going to
He's lived in
coerce
my
people in
house.
front of a
I've
random
lived-
guest in his house, is he? He's going to boast about it.
I've lived in his
really
house
important
for years.
I don't know why you're
lived in my
simping
house
for
years.
someone that would behave like this. It's despicable. I imagine
Okay,
you're not
you're
conservative
basing this on what he said to you in a car. We know he also said he's a trillionaire. Do we really believe
I'm basing
everything
it
that's
off
written?
what I saw him boasting about the room that he showed me with webcams that was super, super dodgy, about the behavior, about all the women that have come forward and started to speak out against him with the police recently, and about people that I know people that I've heard of who I know personally who have been assaulted by him, it has been overwhelming evidence against him. And for you to undermine
Nothing
any
you've
of that
put
is
forward is
absolutely
evidence,
ridiculous
friend.
at this
You don't
point.
know
What are
what
you paid
evidence
by
is.
Andrew Tate? What are you doing?
You don't know what evidence is. You have not put forward a single scrap of evidence. You put forward, he said this once years ago, and I decided it was bad. That is not evidence.
In the context of what he's been arrested for, this is extremely relevant and important, especially when it's an unguarded comment to someone that he trusts. It backs up a lot of the stuff that's been going on, and it's extremely relevant.
It's your
and I
assumption
think it's important
based
for me
on
to
a
talk about.
conversation years ago. It is not
You're
evidence.
just a simp, Andrew Tate. This is bullshit. This is such
There's no
nonsense.
statute.
What is nonsense is you calling yourself a journalist. You don't even know what evidence is. It's ridiculously unprofessional.
If someone gives you a quote that adds to why someone's been arrested, that could explain that behavior back then, that could be a little bit of a confession to what was going on at the time, that is a form of evidence. That's not hard evidence.
No, it's your
but
word
it's
against
not
his
good.
based on a conversation
That's not
5 years ago.
actually evidence. just to step in here, at the end of the day, when you have sexual assault allegations made against you, every authority actually has to take that seriously immediately, whether or not it sounds like bullshit or not, due to the nature of a sexual assault allegation. Because typically this happens behind closed doors. People aren't in rooms. It might happen in an office where no one's around, whatever it might be. So I wouldn't really call this hard, substantiated or
But
corroborated
Gideon, you've
evidence.
just therefore refuted.
saying it was hard evidence.
Gideon, you've just therefore refuted all of the people who claim that they're good friends of Andrew and that he couldn't possibly do this by just summing up exactly how these crimes, alleged crimes, would take place. They would take place behind closed doors where all of his buddies wouldn't see it, because people don't exploit women, generally, or sexually assault them in front of their buddies. So you've literally just summed it up.
No, I'm making the case that you can't immediately believe women all the time due to the nature of a sexual assault or sexual assault allegation. For example, I would rather be accused of murder than sexual assault. Murder is way easier to squash. I didn't do it, I'm good, as opposed to a sexual assault allegation. That's all I'm saying. And every man would agree with that. It's too ambiguous. It's too dangerous. I'm just saying this: believe all women just because these women have come forward. You cannot immediately be like, nope, that's the case. Believe all women. It's the similar thing that happened with #MeToo. It's just the world we're in now. For example, I would never. I worked in producing different types of content. Some involved a lot of women. Now, I was very careful due to all the different things that happened with #MeToo, with different women, and there were new forms I had to sign. All these new things came up because of that. So this is a big issue for a lot of men right now in the world. So
this has nothing to do with men's rights. This has nothing to do with Me Too. This has to do with someone corroborating something that Andrew has been arrested for, and it being extremely fucking suspicious and dodgy, and it's meant to add to that conversation. Yes, and actually, if this was about Jeffrey Epstein or someone you didn't like, and it was someone saying from one of his victims, well, actually, he boasted about it back then, you would say, oh my gosh, wow, there were signs back then, but no one listened to it. But now when it's signs back then, you say, oh, whoa, this is nonsense, this is bullshit. This is honestly just simply, this is like,
so it's only
there is evidence for Jeffrey Epstein. In this case, it's just he said she.
There wasn't evidence for Jeffrey Epstein at this point in the investigation. It was just he said, she said. Carolyn, can you sort of reaffirm exactly how you found yourself in this position? Why were you invited? You don't have to share, but you said you were invited with right-wing journalists, just so we can understand a little bit more about how you found yourself in this situation.
Yeah, so I was a Rebel Media commentator on camera. I was with Tommy Robinson and a few other kind of like high-profile right-wingers. I was someone that had like a lot of followers back then that was very, very right-wing. I'm not
What's a right-wing?
anymore.
What's a right-winger?
What do you mean? What's a right winger? What fucking nonsense are you talking
What is
about
a
now?
right
Right wing
winger?
is someone on
See,
the right.
these are all the
Like,
different
are you
names
brain
they
dead?
use. They use right.
Okay, can we just let Carolyn speak, and then Gideon, if you want to respond, that's fine. But let's just at least let people finish their sentences. It's something I've been told off for doing. I'm trying my best not to.
Yes, sir.
Carolyn, go ahead, man. You're muted, bro.
I was someone that was publicly working with InfoWars and Rebel Media, and obviously a type of media that would be described as not left-wing, on the right, whatever you want to talk about, was starting a business venture with Paul Joseph Watson, Tommy Robinson, a few different people, where we'd launch a new InfoWars-style media company in the UK. Andrew wanted to invest in it, and so he flew me and a few other contributors out to go and pitch him the business plan. That's the reason that I was in Bucharest with him.
And did you have further questions, Sam, before I ask mine?
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, Carolyn, just let me go through my notes. You said you know a few people that were assaulted. Can you just elaborate on this and share with us some discussions you've had, what you can share, and any evidence you may have? Because I know there's a lot of people are questioning what evidence you have.
At the exact moment in time, if I was to elaborate on who was assaulted or the situation, it would out the victims publicly, and that's something that they shouldn't have to go through and shouldn't be going through. It's something that I want to be able to do, but at this moment right now, I've been contacted by them, and it would be a bad idea to out them, basically.
Fair point. That's relatively common. But can you tell us more about what things they shared? I know you touched on it earlier.
A violent assault by Andrew Tate directly in a first-hand personal account. That's all I would go into. I can't describe anything else
Understood
on that stuff.
And before, by the way, Gideon, Alpha, you're free to jump in and ask questions. I know Sierra and Gil and Tara wanna comment on this as well. But another question: have you seen or heard anything about passports being confiscated?
Andrew boasted about having lots of different passports, but I haven't heard anything about them being confiscated.
Okay. Tara, do you want to jump in on this point?
I heard Epstein come up, and I just wanted to remind people that the same day that all of this was happening, Andrew Tate was being arrested. There was a lawsuit filed by the Virgin Islands Attorney General against JP Morgan Chase Bank, and regarding their involvement with Epstein, and whatever sort of money that was changing hands and so on. And also during that time, Biden happened to be visiting the Virgin Islands, and that same attorney general a couple days later was fired. So it was literally the same day that Andrew Tate was being arrested. This lawsuit was filed against JP Morgan. And I think many of us probably are aware of how strong the banks are. So just something to keep in mind, something that sort of transpired, under the radar while all of this Andrew Tate stuff was getting the spotlight. And so many people who didn't even know who Andrew Tate was, now know who he is, and are more focused on that. And then this was happening at the same moment. It's pretty wild.
I appreciate you sharing. Alpha, looking at the points that Carolyn's making, I know that there's no evidence shared, but would you consider it a red flag that is worth looking into further?
I think first of all, I commend Carolyn because I can see he's quite nervous what he's talking about. So good on you for having the courage to speak up to something you believe in. But what I would say is we do know for a fact that our man Tate works with hyperbole. And now, if we look at some of the positive press that's come out, not just the negative, because there's a lot of positive. There was a Ukrainian refugee who I know personally. Her name's Lisa, who she spoke to the Times, I believe it was, and said, "I've lived in that house where these alleged crimes took place. I saw nothing that corroborated any of these claims. Andrew could never do that sort of thing. He just speaks a certain way to the camera to get attention, but that's not who he is." So what I'd say, to Carolyn's point, perhaps, friend, that the fact that we know that Tate likes to talk up a big gangster type character, but everyone around him who actually knows him says that's not who he is. That is what I look at in terms of balance of probabilities. Maybe he was doing his whole, I want to impress someone, I want to talk a good game, because we know he's prone to that. That's all I'd say. The man has said he's a trillionaire. So if we really want to go and take everything literal and claim that that's then evidence, hang on, mate, I'll let you speak. I think you should let me speak. That's respectful, is it not? If we want to claim that everything he says is literal, when he says he's a trillionaire, I think we're kidding ourselves. And again, I'd say all these independent expert journalists learn how to properly classify sources, to cross-check information, learn what evidence is and isn't. Because what's happening now is absolute speculation. It's completely unprofessional. And apart from our man Solomon, who's approaching this like a professional, all these other investigators, you're just making yourself look silly. For example, our friend Sam saying that Tate didn't speak against COVID. There's hours of him ranting with
I didn't
massive
say
emotion
that, actually.
anti-COVID. It's
I didn't
hilarious.
say that.
You guys are not professionals. It's
You're not
actually quite
professional
pathetic.
because you're basically just commenting on this stuff. You're saying that yes, Tate likes to talk up big about things. He does that about money, financial stuff. What he was doing wasn't bigging himself up. It was making himself look seedy and dodgy and opening up to someone that in his inner circle who he thought he trusted.
He likes to be a gangster. He likes to come across like a gangster. We know that. That's how he got global fame.
Well, then he would say other things. He wouldn't say. He would maybe say he owned a big club that got away with drugs. He would maybe say that he pays off the police, but he wouldn't say
never touched
stuff
drugs.
about coercion.
Is
He
this
wouldn't say nothing
Callan
about
speaking?
coercion.
This is all he said, she said 5 years ago. You're not adding value here. You're just proving
Is that
unprofessionalism.
Callan speaking?
Yes. Proving his unprofessionalism again and again.
Callan, you were with InfoWars. Is that what you said?
Well, briefly, I made a couple of films with Alex Jones about his banning from social media, about how it was a free speech issue.
Okay. I was just curious what your thoughts are on Andrew Tate being banned. Do you think that was a free speech issue as well, or something?
No, I'm no
different?
longer of the political views that I were back then in those years. I've moved on from that a lot. I think Andrew should be in prison. I don't think he should. I think he should go way beyond being banned from the internet for what he's done.
Okay.
So it's like that now.
You don't know what he's done. You don't know what he's done.
Slayman, I know you've had your hand up for a while. What are your thoughts on what Callan is sharing? It just seems that it's coming from a legitimate place. I know there's no evidence yet being shared, and I respect Alpha's concerns. But what's your take on this? Because you tend to be pretty...
So there's a couple of points. First of all, in terms of evidence, no evidence has been furnished. That's the first problem. And it's about spoken language, isn't it? And this is what I've seen quite a lot of on the internet when it comes to Andrew Tate's case. Whenever he said things which were humorous or sarcasm, and that's what speech is. Speech isn't just literal. And even in even in the religious sphere, we have this problem where people take things literally, as opposed to looking at other tools such as metaphor, allegory, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of content from Tate that you can quite easily see is actually humor and sarcasm. And people are saying, no, you got to take it literally, but that's just silly. When someone speaks in a humorous manner or a sarcasm manner, or tries to present himself as more than he is, one needs to understand the context of what's being said. And I think that's the main problem here. And I've seen a lot of things on the internet, and I think where this has happened. And then I did demonstrate in my thread, where Syrian Girl also made a comment. It was a joke where she was talking about stabbing a third person. It was a joke. Obviously, she was being humorous. But if one wants to take things literally, you can literally do that to anybody, and it's actually highly ridiculous. So that's my point in terms of
the context is that Mario was asking a puzzle. Sorry, just so we don't talk about stabbing.
I understand it was a puzzle.
The context was it's a puzzle, a mind puzzle about sharing apples.
It was a mind puzzle, but you said it was a mind puzzle, but you, as humorously, you weren't serious. You said about stabbing a third person, and I accept it was humorous.
I never said stab a third person. I said one of the mathematical solutions to this apple sharing puzzles is sadly to do that, but I never said you should. I never presented myself as a criminal.
Irrelevant. I'm not saying you want to stab
I never
someone.
presented myself as a criminal to be the top G, because being a criminal is so impressive. You know, that's not what I was doing.
No, I'm not talking about whether you're missing the point. I'm talking about using tools such as sarcasm and humor, which is a normal human tool to use when you're having a conversation or making a statement, and that is acceptable tool to use. You didn't do anything wrong, Syrian Girl. I'm not saying that. I'm explaining to you why it's not acceptable that when someone's stating something in a humorous manner or using sarcasm or exaggerating in certain scenarios, as Colin's example, why that shouldn't be taken literally.
So
you clearly don't understand
when Andrew Tate,
free speech.
So it's my turn to. Sorry, it's my turn to speak next. Anyway,
no problem.
When Andrew Tate had a private conversation with Callan, telling him that he confiscates the phones of women, he was just having a joke. That was just a joke. That's why he's in jail right now, because he likes to impress people with how he confiscates the phones of women, and he's running away from the UK because he has charges on him. That was all just a joke, even though there's evidence for all those things. It was just a joke, you know? Right?
There's not been any evidence.
Yeah, but yes,
Oh,
that's a
so
good
I
point.
want to
Zero
Where
ask
is
evidence.
the evidence?
Can I just jump in quickly about this evidence? It's come up a few times. Now, yes, we don't know as the public right now if there is any legitimate evidence, but we do know that the judge assessed evidence that was provided very quickly after the raid and said that there was enough to justify holding him for 30 days. So to say there is no evidence is possibly misleading. We don't know what the evidence is, but I just want to make the point that a judge would not be holding a man in custody for 30 days if there was no evidence. There must be something.
Thank you.
Yes, and I would like to, because I never made my point about the fact that, you know, this is about a conspiracy and he's being censored and, you know, it's all to take him down because of the amazing information it was giving us. I want to say that I'm coming also from someone who writes for conservative newspapers. I've written for InfoWars in the past. I have taken the same position on COVID and climate change as Andrew Tate. I'm a supporter of Julian Assange. And the point is that unlike all of those people, Andrew Tate never made a talking point that is unique. He made talking points that others have already made. And let's say, for example, there is an agenda to take him down. Okay, let's acknowledge that there's some people that would be happy to see him silenced. The point is that he made it easy for them. Because there's a lot of people who also deserve to be silenced. I mean, not deserve, but also they have an agenda to silence them. But he didn't make it so easy as to admitting crimes online. Because the problem is that there is a way to put him in jail because of the admissions that he made publicly. So
Yeah, I actually agree with that.
Jesus, yeah, someone, guys, just put your hand up. I'll give you the mic.
Sorry, is that Callan?
people spoke.
Callan has something to say on that. That's fine. But I just want to quickly finish before I hand it over to Callan. That the point that I'm trying to make is that the conspiracy here is that he bribes corrupt Romanian officials. That's the conspiracy. So if he gets off, it could be because, in his own words, potentially because he bribes Romanian officials and has the police in his pocket, as he told numerous people, non-jokingly, not to impress, but in private as well. These are private conversations. So why don't we talk about that conspiracy? Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Callan now.
No, thanks. Just before I grab my flight, I just thought I'd reiterate, I'm not coming on this call to give hard evidence of anything. It's about building an image and building a picture of someone. You know, when you watch say a Netflix documentary about, you know, Andrew Tate, or you read about the final case or anything like, not Andrew Tate, sorry, Prince Andrew or someone like that, not there's much difference.
Calvin, I have a question.
Hold on a second. Sometimes you'll have interviews with bar owners who saw him walk into a bar and say, well, he was actually acting odd that night. He was all over this woman, all over that woman. And sometimes it's not about it always being hard evidence, but about building a picture and building a character, because all of those things are important when you're assessing whether a person has committed something or not. And I think it's relevant. I think it's entirely relevant.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that, Callan. And I think that's very true. Of course, I 100% agree with it. But at the end of the day, someone like me and many other people here, we don't need to prove anything here. You have to prove to us. The proof of burden is on you. You are the people saying he's doing these things. So I agree, we can build the image. I can say what I believe about him. But at the end of the day, everybody who thinks he's done these things, they are the ones who need to come forward and say this happened, and so be it. And whatever, you know, will happen, will happen. The truth will prevail.
Well, I'm not here to prove that to you.
I have a question for Callan.
But until you actually have hard evidence, we cannot say he is who you think he is.
Well, that's
and he should be in jail for life or whatever you said earlier.
Go ahead, Zane.
Yeah, Callan, one journalist to another. I just want to ask this question. You've tweeted that most news producers I know from far right wing media knew the truth about Andrew Tate and booked him anyway for clicks. Disgraceful. You know quite a lot of people, Callan.
Yes, of
You're
course.
very well connected. You probably know, a lot of people. You claim to know a lot of people.
What is this cinematic build-up about? Go on.
It's a good response.
I don't know, man.
I don't know, but I
know a lot of people.
It means everybody has their own agenda. That's all it means. If Andrew Tate can produce views and advertising money for them, despite knowing certain allegations, they'll still book him. That's what that means.
I want to just kind of I want to applaud, and I think Alpha did the same thing as well. I want to applaud Cowlin because what I've seen recently is that people, and you know, I respect the community that Tate has built. It's insane. People speaking out against Tate have just been facing a lot of backlash recently. So Cowlin and I, you know, without being, you know, biased in any way, I just want to say you stepping up right now, as Alpha said, is you know, I respect it, so I appreciate it. Alpha, I'll let you respond briefly to Cowlin's points as well, and Cowlin, I'd also love to talk to you privately about what you're open to share. We can do maybe a thread about it as well, just for people to see the any evidence you can share, but also your perspective on things. But yeah, Alpha, go ahead, man.
Okay, firstly, 2 points. For those who are familiar with the Romanian legal system, you can hold someone, and the reason the hold can be extended is to gather evidence. So saying, oh, the judge must have evidence. The judge has allegations. The extension of 30 days was to look for evidence. So let's get specific here. I'm interacting with professionals, and I suggest everyone do the same if they want to present their opinions and their assumptions with such conviction. Secondly, Cowlin, I said I respect his courage, if you will, but I talk a lot about the need to assess the credibility of sources. Now, my DMs have just blown up with a whole bunch of very slanderous things about this Cowlin chap. I'm not going to say them because I haven't assessed them, but there's at least a dozen people who've said to me, this guy is known to be not a reliable source. He's known to be, there are videos showing that the flaws with his character, the flaws with his judgment. So yeah, if we talk about assessing credibility of source, wow, there's a lot of people, Cowlin, who think that you are not a reliable source.
I need to immediately.
Cowlin, this is a point you know, directed at you. I'd love you to respond. You got to unmute, man.
After working with Tommy Robinson and after working with a couple of similar people who have gone on to commit things that were incredibly dodgy, I have exposed those people in the media and I verified all of it. It's come out in The Independent and it's come out in a lot of different outlets. That has been absolutely categorically verified. It's upset a huge amount of their supporters who don't like hearing things about their Messiah, a bit like what's going on now, but that's just tough shit. That's how it works. And so there's a lot of people who say, oh, Caelan's a traitor because he left the right wing. Caelan's a traitor because he went against Tommy Robinson. Maybe Caelan's a traitor because he's talking about Andrew Tate. But I joined a lot of the stuff on the right wing because I thought that free speech was under attack and all these terrible things were under attack. And women were being raped up and down the UK in Telford and all these different towns and cities. And the people that I were working with were carrying on the same stuff themselves. And I wanted to expose it. And now, yeah, a lot of their supporters say, I'm a traitor, I'm unreliable. But I'm glad I fucking said all of that stuff. And I'd say it all again. So yeah,
okay, and that makes sense. I'll concede that makes a lot of sense, Cowlin, for sure. What I would say is that there's a lot of emotion coming from you, friend. And again, you've conflated your opinions and your assumptions based on a conversation 5 years ago with evidence. So you are not a credible source, friend. I'm going to back out of this chat. There's too much speculation. It's just a lack of professionalism. So I wish you all the best. Thanks, Mario. Thanks, everybody.
Well, apologies for being emotional, but when someone's defending stuff like this, it's really, really, really difficult. And there's been so many people that will defend the indefensible.
You're being emotional about a
because this is an emotive thing. It matters. These things matter.
About comments made 5 years ago. You need to grow up a bit more.
These things matter. They don't matter to you because you're not a real conservative. You're not a real person that cares about other people. But these things matter.
Wait, to bring it back.
I'm glad you know what I am and
people
what I'm not.
demanded that we get
What
someone.
I don't do.
Go ahead, Crabman.
You people demanded, you know, of me to get someone who would speak out about someone who knew and, you know, and actually physically met Andrew Tate. And then here he comes, and then all of a sudden you're ready to just obliterate him. It's just it's entertaining at this point because I gotta laugh at it.
Fidgetal, sorry, has been waiting with his hand up. Mario, I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, of course, Fidgetal. What's up, bro?
No, I'm back in the fucking bar waiting for my hand up. I'll step outside.
Oh man, yeah, man, we got it. Your mic is a problem. It's like, you know, you're gonna be banned from all spaces soon if that mic is not fixed. Simon, what do you think of the response to? It's a valid point that Crabman made. Before we go back to your thread, Crabman, and your next point, it's a valid point that he made. Is that we you know, everyone just ate him alive as soon as he shared you know, he met Andrew Tate and he had, you know, some concerns that he mentioned. What's your take on this? Because it just seemed a bit too aggressive, in my opinion.
No. So in terms of this space, obviously there is a lot more supporters of Andrew Tate, but generally when you look at the entire sphere of the internet or Twitter, it's actually more, you basically will be more successful by attacking Andrew Tate. That's the first point. The second point is this: in terms of Conlon, he has provided information about a conversation, and that's about it. And I know we can say, you know, the conversation doesn't sound great, but in reality, that's not evidence about the things that.
It's not evidence. It's true.
Yeah.
True. But
It's not relevant to the.
But Simon, I want to make it just another point, if you don't mind. I don't usually interrupt, but I just want to make a point. Like a lot of the supporters as well, their arguments like, I met Andrew and he's a great personality and he treated everyone well and he's not like he looks on camera. It just looks like a cult of a personality that is.
Well, I mean, I take your point and I accept that because, and I don't think I've mentioned that anywhere. And the reason, but then just to support those people in the sense of what they've done, because right now there's no evidence. And so when there's no evidence, what can you talk about? You can just talk about emotions. So people who don't like Tate are being emotional about that and providing things that are not evidence-based. And similarly, those who have met him are emotionally explaining their interactions with him. So in reality, all we're dealing with is emotions because there's no evidence that's been provided on the internet that demonstrates anything at all. I mean, if there is, we'll look at it. And
Would you say there's smoke? Would you say there's red flags? Would you say there's points that make it a bit concerning and make the argument that Andrew Tate might have done something wrong? I know it's speculation, but there's just so many red flags that at least there's some things that could be true.
Yeah. So in terms of, I don't believe in the idea of when there's smoke, there's fire, because people can really try and destroy someone when they want. Julian Assange is a perfect example. Somebody who was innocent had not one, but two women accuse him of rape. So I don't believe in this idea of smoke, where there's smoke, there's fire. They said that's the same about Assange.
But Julian, but just quickly about Assange, because we've had Assange on the space a few weeks ago. There was, Assange was not writing things like this on his website, like girls should be XYZ, or for example, the Loverboy strategy, like what Andrew Tate's website said. I'm not saying it implies, it fits the exact definition of Loverboy. So I'm not saying it incriminates him, but I'm saying it's like, holy shit, like this guy just talked about, and I'm not going to read it out again. It's one of my tweets.
So your argument essentially is this, that Julian Assange is a reporter and he wasn't in the sex business, essentially, webcam business, and therefore rape allegations for him are different to rape allegations about Tate. Well, I don't agree with that because, again, if we apply that, you're going to be, basically anyone in that entire industry, and there's a significant amount of people in the industry, could then be accused of said crimes quite easily. And
I would say there's more. I'd say there's a little bit more to it, based on, and again, this is not evidence against the guy in legal terms, but based on years of saying pretty heavy stuff about women. This isn't, Julian Assange wasn't spending years talking about how you should dominate women and all of these things. That's just the point. I just want to ask you one thing.
That's because
specifically.
I think him out of context.
I just want to ask you a specific question.
Before you ask the question, just quickly, Sam, I just want to offer clarity, and Gideon, I'll let you speak after Slayman. Just for the audience, like me and Sam are seeming pretty critical right now. That's just purely to balance the conversation because we do have more supporters on space. So Slayman, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here, and I think Sam is doing the same, just for clarity. But yeah, Sam, go ahead, and then we'll get Slayman and Gideon to respond.
I'd like to get Katie up to speak as well. She's had a hand up.
Exactly, yeah.
And we're not hearing too much from. I'm assuming maybe Katie will have different opinion to some of you guys. But you said, Suleiman, or sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. You said that you believe that the majority of people on Twitter, for example, are anti-Tate. I'll be honest. I've every survey I've seen, the majority of DMs I get in my inbox suggests that that's not true. I've seen most surveys. Is Andrew innocent or guilty? It's been like 80% innocent, and I'm not judging on that either way. But I'm just saying, I don't think. Do you really actually believe that statement? You said that most people out there think that he's guilty in social media.
Sorry, I didn't mean guilty. I meant in terms of the content that's been produced.
Sorry, I didn't mean guilty. I meant innocent. Oh, so yeah, I apologize.
So I'm talking about in terms of the content that's been produced, in terms of this so-called evidence in order to demonstrate his guilt has been proliferated throughout the internet considerably. And that is the only reason that I stepped in and made those threads, because I was like, this is just one-way traffic. It's using information as evidence when it's not evidence, and that
it's a good point. But do you think that's because Andrew really just incriminated himself by all the things he said over the years?
No, I don't think
there wasn't so much out there that would stop people from being able to. I get what you're saying, but it's easier for people to compile a list of quotes of Andrew saying bad stuff about women than it is to compile a list of quotes of him not. I'm just saying as devil's advocate. So I do get your point. It's a very fair point.
Yes. Can I jump in here very quickly?
I agree. You can quite easily, based on the amount of content that Andrew Tate has on the internet, you can quite easily, and we've seen that people chop up information to make him look bad. That's for sure. Because let me give you an example. I asked people, I said, look, give me the worst things that Andrew Tate's got. What's the worst things he said? And when they've sent me things, other than one clip that I actually found problematic before Andrew Tate came and clarified it, there were always context behind it. It was about male and female dynamics. It was about contextual situations. Now, the one clip that I did have a problem with Andrew Tate about was when he said ISIS is the true Islam. When someone sent me that, I said, yeah, that's dumb. But luckily, just a few weeks ago, on Piers Morgan, he said, look, I was wrong. I was an atheist. I made a comment 10 years ago, and I don't stand by that comment. So he himself admitted that he was wrong. And so if I was a Andrew Tate stan, I would have been like, look, he must be right, and trying to give proofs based on how ISIS could be a form of Islam. But no, I said it was dumb. It was a dumb point, and luckily and he conceded, Andrew Tate did, that look, I made that comment 10 years ago when I was an atheist, and I no longer hold that comment position. Sorry.
I'll go to Gideon. I know you've been trying to jump in before we go to Katie and Siringo.
Yeah, hi Mario, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to jump in because I got to wrap up and I got to go. I just wanted to say thank you first of all for having me on this, and I enjoyed speaking with everyone. And obviously these things, it's a serious matter, and sometimes we can all shout over each other. But just wanted to say, I think ultimately this is how I would wrap it up. Everybody takes all of Andrew Tate's previous content that he's put out way too seriously. There is sarcasm, there is humor, there is nuance to it. And you can do that with anyone if you chop clips up in a certain way and make someone look bad. And yes, I agree, he doesn't help himself. He's extremely flashy, loud, boastful, cocky, arrogant, 100%. There's no doubt about it. But I haven't seen anything that would incriminate him necessarily. Listen, you could get a really good lawyer who will use all of this to convince a jury. I guess then that might incriminate him, but ultimately he hasn't said anything where it's like, I locked a girl.
Just be careful with your words there, my friend.
To her. He's just extremely boastful, flashy, cocky, arrogant with everything he does. And the real issues people actually had with him, someone else said this, was when he talks about men and women. People don't like that. And here's the other thing. I produce many content with my sister on the street, Leia Heilpern, where we street interview people and ask them what their thoughts were on Andrew Tate. Every time we ask, do you like him? It's a no, no problem. Why? Oh, he's misogynistic. No problem. Can you define misogyny? Don't know. Can you tell me something he's done? Don't know. Just saw something on TikTok. That's all anyone says. And sometimes you can be guilty by public opinion, if that makes sense. And unfortunately, this is not going to help Andrew Tate's case, and he hasn't helped himself either because of all the things he talks about online. But I wouldn't say there's things out there that actually or literally incriminate him, say, yes, he did this, he did that. He locked someone in a room and he confiscated all the passports and he took their phones, and he hasn't done anything. As for saying that he scammed men on this webcam business, well, those men are just suckers at the end of the day, and people get scammed all the time. Doesn't necessarily make him a criminal if you understand the technicalities of how he did it with the girls and what the men thought he was getting and what the girls were doing. It's very nuanced and it's a hard conversation to have. But I want to thank everyone. I've enjoyed speaking and hearing everyone's opinions, and perhaps till next time. Thank you for having me, Mario.
I appreciate it, Gideon. And before we continue with Crabman's thread, and by the way, we do have someone from the audience. Her name is Milbro. You've sent some points that I'd love to bring up in the space about the sentiment in Romania regarding Andrew Tate, and a few things that you mentioned. So I've just sent you an invite via DM if you want to come up. But otherwise, Katie, pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. And the short little while that I've been listening to everybody, I just really want to strip everything back and bring to the attention that there are potential alleged victims or people that are listening in that this could be quite triggering to, that are victims of sexual assault, rape, misconduct, trafficking, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to raise the awareness right off the bat to the sensitivity and the nature of this conversation, myself included, because whether somebody is convicted of a crime or is taken into questioning from an alleged crime, it is entirely important for us as just human beings, just to be sensitive to whomever it is or whoever is listening, whoever may be triggered to this. Because at the end of the day, us being here on social media, of which Andrew Tate clearly has found his feet in with TikTok, etc., etc. He initially found his, I guess, fame on Big Brother, which was quite some years ago. I too have partaken in Celebrity Big Brother in 2017. My immediate questions go to, well, hang on a minute, what was the duty of care there from and responsibility from a TV show as to his safety and well-being and blah blah blah. But that's another talk for another time. But based on whether he has done something or not, or what the press are alleging, I really want to just say, press and media cannot print anything unless verified legally, because by law they have whomever it is has a right to reply without the risk of being sued for libel, for defamation. And so there is always going to be some element to something which is an undertone. Otherwise, all of the press and media would be sued to shit.
That's a fair point. It's a fair point, Katie. I appreciate you sharing this, and especially that the most of the media does fall into that category, especially in Western countries and less corrupt countries. But I do want to quickly go to Crabman and Slayman. Guys, I know you have your hand up, Syrian girl, so I'll go to you in a bit as well. I've kind of reduced the panel, guys, just to kind of go through Crabman. Crabman, if we can succinctly go through some of the claims you have in your thread, and Slayman, I'd love you to respond to them as well, because that was a focus of mine. You spent a lot of time researching this, Crabman. So did you want to go through the next maybe 2-3 more claims that you have in your thread, especially ones related to the allegations?
Okay. So this room is incredibly, passionate. I just want to lower the temperature and say I respect the fact that everyone has their own reasons to their own opinions. I mean, Jesus. But just to get back to the point, one of the things that teaching men to be better, that whole mantra that everyone rallies around Tate behind, is teaching them how to become OnlyFans pimps. And good Lord, if I can even find this shared tweets of here it is. I'm going to share that one. If you instill this value of teaching men how to be pimps in itself is a problem. But if we come back to the Andrew Tate situation in terms of just his treatment of women, he has made stories about how women are sheep and they're programmable, and like it's a psychological game to him. Like with everything going on, and I know everyone's gonna really have their own opinions and talking points, and that's fine, but like he put it out there and he thought it was.
Do you have a question? I've got a question for you, Crabman. Do you have any from all the research you've done? Is there anything you'd consider as evidence that or evidence that could either imply a crime or at least indicate a potential crime? Anything you have? Because I know you've done a lot of study. I know that there's two things you cannot share with girls you've spoken to. But what can you share?
I can't talk about that. I've spoken to the victims impacted, and they show me the goods, and I just can't talk about it. I would go to hell in a handbasket.
Is there anything other? Is there anything you can talk about other than the two victims you've spoken to?
What do you mean? Like, there's another lead saying that women have escaped before the April incident, and I'm trying to chase down the lead about that. But then everyone's going to say, "Oh, ho, he doesn't have it right in front of him." Yeah, because this is an ongoing, thing. It's not a marathon. I mean, it's not a sprint to the finish. It's a fucking marathon. And I think that sort of just message is lost here. Like when it comes to this conversation and how intense everyone is.
So I want to go to Slayman. Slayman, Crabman's got these threads. Is some evidence he cannot share? It's very easy to say, "Hey, show me the evidence. Otherwise, everything is just useless." But that argument can go both ways. My point is that what do you want to see to be like, all right, now I'm concerned, or my opinion on Tate is and whether he's guilty or not is kind of changing. What do you need to see beyond the obvious, beyond like the evidence that the Romanian authorities have going public, like the fact that they've been investigating him for 8-9 months, the fact that they've had him wiretapped and tracked as well, the fact that they've had SWAT teams go to his house, which is not, if it's just based on a complaint, they don't have a SWAT team with all the weapons that they had go to his property. What do you need to see to be like, all right, shit, there's something here?
Yeah, I need to see real evidence to show that he's done something. If he has, of course, we will I definitely believe that he should be charged if there is. The problem I have is with what's happening on the internet, and I'm sorry to say, Crabman, I only got your thread an hour ago, so I'm reading through the content as you
I
posted.
would love to just discuss it with you, like just openly,
sorry.
and be open-minded.
Go ahead, sir.
So my issue is this. First of all, Carman, you said on this space that you've been investigating for 3 years.
No, 3 years.
And
where?
Did you not say that you started
No,
investigating in
I
2019?
said the claims go back 3 years.
Oh, but you're not being posted. When did you start posting?
In April 2022 with that first thread.
Oh, so your first thread was April 22.
I was just
Yes.
looking at it from there. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So that's fine. So look, my issue is this: you need real evidence in order to charge someone. So as an example, a lot of terms are being used, and I do feel like they're being used incorrectly. As an example, Crabman said, posted that a tweet by Tristan Tate. Now, once again, that tweet doesn't demonstrate illegal behavior. It doesn't demonstrate that he did any of the things that he's charged for. Yes, it does talk about the webcam business, and me, from my own ethical standpoint, I don't think any of these industries are acceptable, including Instagram, where men are being exploited. But the world doesn't live on my paradigm. The world lives on a liberalist paradigm, and that's what the Western society is. And in Western society, these things are being deemed acceptable. Now, in terms of the word pimp, so even the word pimp, so what is a pimp? So if you read, for example, the book of Iceberg Slim, or for example, the Hughes documentary, they lay it out and they say it's somebody who is exploiting women to the extent where they're not getting paid. They might be given some heroin or whatever it may be, but they're not receiving any kind of substantial
That's the claim being made in the
benefits.
investigation. That's all I'm going to say.
Sorry. I'll just finish my point, and then whereas in these scenarios, when